Ezekiel made this beat.
Yeah, 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 go away. Yeah, 12. Right off the back, I'm running it out here, I'm talking, but they don't want none of it. When you need a body, bro, who you gonna get? Wheel of Fortune like I'm Say Jack, put an 8-track on the SoundCloud. Every bar like a bulldog, boy, it looks small, but it sound loud. Told the Lord I'ma cook for him till I see him coming in a round cloud. Wild trumpets with a wild crowd, now them wild nations gotta bow down. Swing low, sweet chariot, let me get a spot when you ride down. Fear God, put some fringes on it, now I gotta go and cop a fly crown. It's suicide if you slide down, put it on my tribe like the 12 man. Pick and roll like the mailman. If I ain't winning, who the hell can? We ain't get it from Obama wishes. Had a razor blade on my mama dishes. Kill a game and I kill a scrimmage. Man, they told me to go and don't leave a witness. Now I'm up in the lab like I know the chemist. Put the comma on it like I know the sentence. What goes around knows it come around. When it comes around, boy, I know the feeling. Deadly cycle on the replay. All my brothers dying, we don't know the healing. We all on the trial, we the co-defendants. We the chosen, but look how we chose a sentence. We the guys, but we dying like men. Beat the odds that we gotta beat again. Trying to break the curses that we put us in. Yeah, we the guys, but we dying like men. Beat the odds that we gotta beat again. Trying to break the curses that we put us in. So we win in the end. Yeah. So we win in the end. Yeah. We win in the end. Yeah. We win in the end. Went in the end like the Black Knight. Drug administration gave us crack pipes. Dirty needles in the Desert Eagle. Pull it on your people, make them act right. Show them all how to kill a god. Make them all left, never half right. Everybody wanna be your dog and they all bark, only half bite. Babylon fall like it's 9/11. Got nobody to call, I can't find a reverend. Cops killing, they can't find a weapon. Put me in the kingdom when it's my protection. Father, I sin when it's my confession. I won't do it again, I done learned a lesson. And I'm losing my friends, I done burned a blessing. But we win in the end, how to earn protection. Yeah, made the most side say the same. It was dope boy, Magic David Blaine. Had the fiend singing on the Eddie Kane. Now my mama saying she could see a change. Last couple years, you don't speak the same. Got a clean heart and a bleached brain. Then I went ahead and dropped my street name. So, oh behold, it's a new day. Never pay attention what the news say. They in prep mode for they doomsday, bro. Black Christ coming on a new wave. With a bullet catch, no Luke Cage. Pray hit the nations with a new face. So, I ain't tripping about what a group say. Can't tell me down with a flute play. I'm a God soul, what the truth say goes. I ain't tripping about what a group say. Can't tell me down with a flute play. I'm a God soul, what the truth say goes. We win in the end. Yeah. So we win in the end. Yeah. We win in the end. TSOC and we back, but we never left. It's official this time. Let's go. When I say get the strap, I mean grab a book. We all outside, come and take a look. See us. They only lying cause we got them shook. We got a new vibe, come and take a look. We didn't die, bro, we outside. Me and my whole tribe, bro, we outside. We can't let it slide, bro, we outside. Now them haters got their mouth wide. You pray for my demise, you gon' end up disappointed. My greatness about to rise, cause his time has been appointed. With the Lord by my side, ain't no touching his anointed. Whole armor of God, when I'm fighting my opponent. Won't smoke with my God, no you really do not want it. Casting down all these lies, cause the truth I be up on it. Trying to manifest my greatness, be all I can be. These heathens trying to catch up, but they cannot compete. These heathens hate my pedigree, cause they ain't great as me. They treat me like a slave, but I'm from a line of kings. They cheat trying to tame the lion within me. But we are not the same, I'm a God, can't you see? And I never fight alone, I got God next to me. Jerusalem, my home, that's the land of the free. Really ain't no guarding me, I'm hard and shooting 43. And really ain't no stopping me, cause I'm a work of prophecy. When I say get the strap, I mean grab a book. We all outside, come and take a look. See us. They only lying cause we got them shook. We got a new vibe, come and take a look. We didn't die, bro, we outside. Me and my whole tribe, bro, we outside. We can't let it slide, bro, we outside. Now them haters got their mouth wide.
Shalom Israel, happy Sabbath. How y'all doing today, man? I pray y'all are doing well. I pray y'all in the spirit. I pray you're enjoying this Sabbath day. What's going on, Elder? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Happy Sabbath, Israel. Happy Sabbath. I also pray everybody's doing well, but Everything's going good, man. I'm excited to get this class going. This is a good one right here.
Hey, man, we're in the month of excellence, right? You know, we had some very good topics so far. I pray that y'all were really, utilizing them to your benefit, to your value. We talked about a couple of different things. We talked about self-help. We talked about how to focus and maintain success. We've talked about managing your finances, your time, and things like that. And today, we're dealing with emergency preparation. Emergency preparation. How many of you are prepared for an emergency? That's a topic right there.
That's
because
a huge topic.
Preparation is not something that most of us are really that great at, right?
That's very true.
Well, today we're going to talk about it because that's something that we need to encourage, we need to increase, we need to do better in if we're going to become excellent. This is a month of excellence, and the goal is to make sure that we actually fit that mold.
Right.
So today we're going to talk about emergency preparation, and we're going to focus on a few key areas of preparation because there's a lot of things to be prepared for, but we need to be prepared for job loss. We need to be prepared for sickness, and we need to be prepared for death in the family and things like that so that we can continue moving forward and not get derailed in the process of becoming excellent.
Right.
So today, we're going to have an opportunity to be very interactive in the class. Today we have a Zoom link for the brothers so that you can tune in as well as provide commentary and input. So we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to tune in for the brothers. We also have a survey that is going out, that has already gone out through your emails. If you're on the email list, hopefully you've received it. It should have also been posted in social media. So we're going to post it one more time in the chat, if someone could post that in the chat for us, to give you that opportunity to interact. This is for the men, the women, anyone can tune in to that survey because we need your input on how prepared you are for an emergency. So today's class is going to be a little different. We're going to have that interaction, and we need each and every one of you to bring that energy, to bring your commentary, and to bring that information that we need that's specific to our people.
That's right.
All right? So, Yakin, can you do me a favor?
Yes, sir.
Can you send up the prayers for you?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Trumpets. This is the book of Psalm, chapter 84. How amiable are thy tabernacles, O Lord of hosts! The soul longeth, yea, even fainteth for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh crieth out for the living God. Yea, the sparrow hath found a house, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young. Even thine altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. Blessed are they that dwell in thy house. They will still praising thee. Selah. Blessed is the man whose strength is in thee, and whose heart are the ways of them, who passing through the valley of Baca make it a well. The rain also filleth the pools. They go from strength to strength, every one of them, and Zion appeareth before God. O Lord God of hosts, hear my prayer. Give ear, O God of Jacob. Selah. Behold, O God, our shield, and look upon the face of thine anointed. For a day in thy courts is better than 1,000. I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than to dwell in the tents of wickedness. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord will give grace and glory. No good thing will he withhold from them that walk uprightly. O Lord of hosts, blessed is the man that trusteth in thee. Amen. Heavenly God, Heavenly Father, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God of the 12 tribes of Israel, we thank you for allowing us to come together for another holy Sabbath day, Father. Coming together in the spirit of peace, in the spirit of unity, in the spirit of charity, in the spirit of love, Father. In the spirit of joyfulness and gladness as you have commanded us, Father. Thank you for your mercy, O Father. Thank you for your patience, Father, and allowing us to get ourselves together, Father, as we try to get ourselves together in these turbulent times in this wicked world, Father. We understand that our righteousness is as filthy rags, Father, but we thank you for your patience and your mercy, Father. We pray that this word goes out across the four corners of the earth, Father, that it may edify those that hear, Father, those that are within the truth and without, Father, that they may understand how to prepare for emergencies, Father. We pray for more wisdom, more understanding, more knowledge, Father, as the waters rise, Father, as the waters increase, to allow us to continue to teach, continue to edify those that are within this truth, Father, and those that are without as well, Father. We pray for those that are with child, Father, that they may give healthy, righteous seeds upon the earth, and those that are without child, Father, that you may bless their womb, Father, that they may give forth righteous and righteous seeds upon the earth, Father. We pray that this word is edifying. We pray for the food. We pray for the strong drink, Father, that it may nourish our mind, our body, and our spirits, Father. We pray for more laborers in this truth, Father, because we understand that the harvest is plenty and the laborers are few, Father. We pray all these things in your Son, Jesus the Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Hey, all praises, Israel. Hey, yeah, King, you know, I got to ask you to remind the people what chapter and verse you came from in that prayer, because it's always good to hear these, these different books that we haven't read very often, very much lately. So remind the people where that came from.
Yeah, that was Psalms chapter 84.
Psalms chapter 84. Put that in your notes. That's a great prayer. You know, I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord than to, live so great in the tents of wickedness, right? Yes. That's something that I like to hear. I like to be reminded of how great it is to be in the house of the Lord. Mm-hmm. Even at the bottom of that house is so much better than the top of the wicked house.
Absolutely.
So all praises for that. So, I want to remind you, we're doing something different today. We're bringing forth the opportunity for interaction. So we need the brothers who are ready to interact today to tune in. We got a Zoom link that's going to go out. That's going to be placed in the Facebook and the YouTube chat. The topic is emergency preparation. So get your mind working toward those things so that you can chime in and give some input. And we're going specifically into job loss, sickness, and death. Those are the key points of today's lesson,
Heavy
today's
topics,
meditation.
man.
And so we really want that interaction. We also, again, we have a survey going out that are asking some key questions so that we can get some statistics and analytics on our people, very specific to our group of people, on how we fare in the process of being prepared for an emergency. All right? So as you guys tune into the Zoom, please make sure that you put your name in the display area, as well as be prepared to have your camera on. So, if you need to go tighten up a little bit, make sure that you're presentable. Yep. Let's do that because you'll be forever etched in history with your commentary for today.
Put some oil on that face.
Put some oil on that face. All right. So, I have a question for you. The first question to the audience, if anyone is already ready in the Zoom, hopefully. What is an emergency? What do you deem an emergency? Yakin, but while we giving the people a chance to get themselves ready, let me ask you that question. What's an emergency? What do you deem an emergency?
Man, an emergency to me is something that happens and that's something that happens that's unexpected, I would say.
Something that happens that's unexpected.
Yeah.
Well, a surprise party,
right.
That's unexpected.
But it could be dangerous. It could be something that affects you in a negative way.
That affects you in a negative way.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you give me some examples of what you would call an emergency that fits that definition that you just gave?
Getting sick,
Getting sick.
Getting sick is one of those things that we don't necessarily expect sometimes. And it could be a very serious sickness that could then cause us to have some issues. So I would say that would be an emergency for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I asked a lot of different people what they thought an emergency was. And a lot of people, they thought of, weather-related disasters. Oh, it's an emergency because I just had a hailstorm and it broke my window in my car. Somebody knows what I'm talking about right there. I don't know who may know.
Yeah.
I may know. But somebody knows what I'm talking about right there. Somebody else has deemed an emergency situation when they run out of gas. Somebody has deemed an emergency situation when they were playing a sport and they broke their arm or their leg or something. Various things have people pinpointed as emergencies. But sometimes we create emergencies out of things that really aren't emergencies,
Yeah.
or we allow things to become emergencies that didn't ever have to become emergencies, but because of how we lived our life, it was destined to become an emergency situation.
And I was just thinking that when you were giving the examples, because you said running out of gas.
Yes.
And I was like, that's not really an emergency to me, because you could have prepared for that. You know, that's something that you see the meter every single day you get in the car. So you need to prepare to put the right amount of gas in so you don't run into that emergency.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to be forward thinking. And a lot of the things that we call emergencies wouldn't actually become an emergency.
Right.
So I really want to make sure that question is out there for the public. What do you deem as an emergency? What type of emergencies have you been involved in lately, or seen someone else be involved in? Maybe you were the witness to an emergency, but you were not the active participant in the emergency. You know, I really want to hear what people have seen as emergencies, and you know, some will fit into what we're calling today's topic: job loss, sickness, and death. But other people may find that there are some other emergencies that stem beyond that, and I'd like to hear about those as well.
Definitely.
So, if there's anyone on the lines, let me know so that we can open up the opportunity here for the emergency. So, while we're waiting to see, you know, many of us are going to be in an emergency at some point in our life. You've probably already been in it if you live long enough. You know, I'm sure anyone over the age of 2 has been in an emergency.
Yep.
Right? And I'm giving you time to get to 2, but your birth was probably an emergency, right? So everyone has probably been in an emergency, but the question is, are you ready for it? Are you ready for a situation to pop off? You know, I personally, when I'm defining an emergency for today's lesson, I'm defining it as a serious, unexpected, and often dangerous situation that requires immediate action. So when I call it an emergency, it's not just serious, it's not just unexpected, it's not just dangerous, but it requires immediate action.
Right.
So how many of you can resonate with that definition? How many of you can understand what is being said there and say, yep, I've experienced an emergency that fits exactly what you just said, or I've seen it? I'm sure that you've been on both sides of it, though. So the question is, again, are you ready? Are you ready? That's what preparation means, Joaquin.
Yes.
Being ready.
Yep.
Are you ready for that serious situation, that unexpected situation, that dangerous situation to pop off, and then you be in a position to take an immediate action to alleviate that emergency? Are you ready?
Man, and that's a heavy question, and you know, and what you're saying is in every aspect of your life too. You know, not just in one specific area. You got to be prepared in everything that you do. You know, so that's a heavy thing to think about for sure.
All right. So, can we hear from Brother Yakiden on emergency? Does he have any emergencies that he's witnessed or seen or been a part of? What does he think an emergency is? You know, and I want to hear from Brother Benaiah as well, following up on that. You know, I really want to hear from as many
Shalom,
people
most
as
high
possible.
Christ bless.
You go ahead, brother.
I actually had an emergency yesterday.
Oh wow.
My screen on my phone. Shalom, most high Christ bless.
Go ahead, brother.
The screen on my phone cracked, and so I had insurance on it. And luckily, I have been placing money to the side for any case of emergencies, and so I was able to take care of that yesterday.
So all praises. I think a lot of people can relate to that one, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, brother, for bringing it up, because every one of us in here has probably dropped our phone and broke our screen.
Yep.
But Yakin, how many of us had insurance on our phone? How many of us had money to the side to pay that deductible for the insurance?
Right.
You know, the brother seemed like he was prepared for his emergency. And that's the reason why I wanted to go to the audience, because I want to get real life examples that everybody can resonate with, and you can see when a person is prepared or not prepared and how it affects them. Right. The brother already back up and running probably.
Easy.
You know, whereas another person, you go months without a fixed phone.
That's right.
You got Band-Aids all over your film because you've been trying to swipe on that cracked screen,
Yep.
and now you bleeding everywhere,
Yep.
creating a new emergency. Notice how one emergency can create a new emergency when you're not prepared for an emergency.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you talked about the insurance, because
Yeah.
a lot of us, when we buy the phones, they like, do you want this insurance on there? And we like, nah, that's
$5 a month?
$5, nah, that's too much. That's too much. But, you know, once you get in a situation like that, you wishing that you had it.
Wishing.
You, and stuff like this, like the OtterBox, you know, like a
$50 for a case? Let me go get that Dollar Tree case, man. Let me get that $5.
Yeah,
Let me get that Five Below case.
They want that real cheap one, but you gotta, if you're gonna invest into something as expensive as a phone, you gotta protect it, you know. So it's important.
All praises, brother. Can I hear from the next brother in the audience? I really asked Brother Benaiah, so I hope he's that next brother. Brother, what you got for me? Have you experienced an emergency? Have you witnessed an emergency? And if so, tell us a little bit about it. Okay. So, you know, Yakeem, let me ask you another question. An emergency. Oh, you ready? You ready? Go ahead.
Shalom, happy Sabbath, Most High in Christ bless. Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Happy Sabbath, bro.
Okay. So, you know, Yakeem, ask you another question. An emergency. Oh, you ready? You ready? Go ahead.
Oh, it is.
Can y'all hear me? Yes.
It is a delay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just say it. So I'm gonna tell you about a time where I had an emergency.
If you don't mind,
but
Benai, give me a quick second, Benai.
I was
real
not
quick, Benai.
prepared for it. Being in the military, we kind of like can go anywhere we want to go, and they put me on to be a drill sergeant at a certain time point where I was not good with my finances. I didn't have any type of savings or anything like that.
Benaiah, real quick. Just for everybody that's getting on, Shalom family, Most High in Christ bless. Whenever you enter into the Zoom, before you're about to talk, make sure that the class is muted on your end. All right, y'all. We love the fact that y'all are getting on and keep joining. We put out the link on Facebook and YouTube, but whenever you join, make sure that you have the class playing in the background. It's on mute. So that way, whenever you're speaking through Zoom, people won't be able to hear an echo of the class. All praises. Would you mind, Brother Benaiah, starting back from scratch to be able to run through that emergency? All praises. Happy to see you on, brother. Happy Sabbath.
All right, can you test? Can you hear me now? Are we good?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All praises. So yeah, I'm going to tell you about a time where I was not prepared for an emergency that basically happened prior to me coming to California. To make a long story short, the military sent me somewhere else, like drill sergeant school, but we did not ended up being a completing drill sergeant school, but we had sold our house and everything, but we did not have any type of money for the emergency costs. But what happened? For whatever reason, drill sergeant school failed, and now we have to front the money for an emergency for the closing costs. We didn't have that money. So this was a time where we were not prepared, and we didn't have the money to we didn't have the money to take care of that closing cost. So I mean, had we been prepared and we was preparing for our finance and just been preparing for a rainy day, we would have been all right. But because we wasn't prepared for it, it kind of put us in debt. So that's what I have of someone not being prepared for an emergency. That was emergency.
Let me ask you a quick question on that.
Yes.
So you were not prepared financially. I understand that. but was there also a lack of preparation on the knowledge that you needed to put you in position to make the right decision and be prepared? Like, did you know that you were going to experience those closing costs?
Oh, absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Had no. I mean, it was just absolutely not. We didn't know anything, and maybe we might have. We did, but we didn't expect it to be as high as it was. I mean, so it was. We wasn't really even thinking about it because we didn't think it was going to be that high. So when we found out that it was higher than what we expected, it was like, oh my goodness, we didn't prepare for this.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, brother. That, you know, I'm really glad that you brought up that side of it, of being unprepared, because we need to see what happens when you're prepared. We need to see what happens when you're not prepared.
Right.
And, you know, for anyone that has ever bought a house, that's a stressful situation, because even though you know what offer you want to put on the house, and maybe they will accept that offer, you have all these other closing costs and fees that you may not know about. Right. So I asked that question in the end because one of the parts of the definition that I brought up was unexpected, right? It's an unexpected situation that calls for immediate action.
Right.
So when you're at the closing table and you brought $10,000 to the table and they say, we need 20, if you don't have the 20, they're going to say, oh, the deal is off.
That's it. Yeah.
And so you don't want to be in a position and situation to where you're going to lose your money that you have already put into it because you weren't prepared for the situation to close on that house. And so I asked the question, I said, was it a lack of knowledge as well? Because preparation, part of that is setting the money to the side, but the other part is I was educated enough, I had the knowledge necessary that would have put me in a position to know I needed to put money aside. To know that when I get to the closing table, and what do we understand that experience brings forth that knowledge, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to go to the audience. I got a brother in the audience that may have something to say.
Hey, shalom. Hey, shalom, elders. I just wanted to mention what recently happened in Texas with the winter storm.
Bring it out.
You know, a lot of people were unprepared to be stuck in their house for a week, to have every restaurant around them, every grocery store shut down. You basically couldn't move. You know, people didn't understand that their power was going to go out for a certain amount of time. Me and my wife, we caught it on out. It started out as for a day. You know, it was a couple of hours. I get home and she's like, "Oh, the lights are out." I called the light company and they said they're going to be on in a few hours. Well, a few hours turned to like 5 or 6 hours. Then we had to go to a hotel. We stayed in the hotel, and luckily, all praise to the Most High, lights came back on and never went out the rest of the time. But we were just thinking, we have a new baby, and our other kids were in clean with their grandparents, so we were, you know, all praise they weren't there at that time. But we were just thinking, it got us thinking, like, we got to make sure that we're prepared for times like this. Make sure you got food. Make sure you got, you know, water in your house. If you need a generator, things of that nature, so you can have power going on, because a lot of people
People were what?
they were dying.
They were dying. So because they didn't have prepared measures for food, for electricity, for a place to stay warm, for whatever it was, it led to another emergency, which people began to die.
Right.
And see, that was a situation that many of us weren't prepared for. Why? Because in this area, we never get ice like that. Right. In this area, we avoid pretty much all the natural disasters. We don't get hurricanes, we're too far inland. We don't get earthquakes, we're too far south. We don't get tornadoes, we're just south of all the tornadoes as well. You know, everything that we could potentially look at as normal natural disasters that different areas get, we don't hit too often.
Right.
You know, every 100 years. And none of us have been living that long for the most part that is on this YouTube and Facebook stream. There may be someone at that age group. Shout out to you if you're in that 100-year club.
Absolutely.
But for the most part, our lack of experience in it causes us to be unprepared.
Right.
Now, fortunately, Yakeem, we got the weather Doppler system. You got weather.com that's telling you, oh, in a week it's going to be an ice storm.
Right.
But guess what? How many of you even watch the news? How many of you look up the weather and forecast and look into the future and say, you know what? I know that it's going to be cold next week. Let me make sure I'm prepared for it. Most of us don't do that, even though the tools are there. And that's what we need to really think. preparation.
Right.
You know, go ahead. You wanted to say something?
I was just gonna say, and the people, and even if you do look a week ahead, a lot of us still aren't prepared enough to even prepare for it. You know, we don't have the proper tools that we need in order to be able to prepare for a situation like we're just talking about there.
So you have to be prepared to be prepared.
You got to be prepared to be prepared.
And you got to pay attention to the signs.
Yes.
You know, let me give you an example. So we had the ice storm.
Yep.
And I made it through that fine, no big deal. Then after the ice storm, we have a hailstorm. So the difference between the ice storm and a hailstorm, just ice is falling from the sky, but it's not freezing, right? In the weather in that area. So I get the notification on my phone that it's going to be a hailstorm, but because all the time that we didn't had a hailstorm in the past, it's never been a big deal. It's never affected me. I was like, I'm not worried about it. Next thing you know, I'm driving and I'm like, wife, did you open the window?
Oh man.
The sunroof then caved in
Ooh.
from the hail.
Wow.
And I had the opportunity to be prepared,
Man.
but I ignored the warning signs because of so often I did not have to do anything about it before. That sounds like Noah.
Absolutely.
That sounds like Noah. He had the warning signs. Everybody else was like, it's never rained before. We're not worried about a flood.
Right. And you know, that type of thing, me growing up in North Carolina, that's something that, you know, I think about a lot of times when it comes to hurricanes.
Yeah.
Or really natural disasters in general, but especially hurricanes, because with the hurricanes, what'll happen is, you know, they'll be on the Weather Channel, oh, this is going to be a horrible hurricane, it's going to be a Category 5 by the time it hits land. And then once it hits land, it's like a depression.
A chair blew over, a little lawn chair, and that's it.
Exactly. But then the next one that comes, that really be the one that messes things up. But the people, their minds are like, oh, that last one was nothing, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to prepare for it. And that'll be the one that'll actually do the damage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, when it comes to hurricanes, it made me think about Katrina. That's a very popular hurricane in recent time.
Yep.
And there's people who are still affected by Katrina to this day. And Katrina happened how many years ago?
Oh, man. It's 2005, I think.
Yeah. So
15, 16 years.
when you're not prepared for an emergency, it can have long-lasting effects. But let's go back to the audience. We got somebody else bringing out something. Let's see what we got.
Shalom, family. Happy Sabbath. We have commentary from Brother. We have commentary from Brother Nicodemus.
Okay, Brother Nicodemus, please come to the stage and let us know what you want to say about emergency preparation.
Hey, shalom, shalom. Most High in Christ bless. Hope everyone is doing well on the Sabbath. First and foremost, you know, I remember that situation that Elder had with the car roof, because when he shared that with myself, you know, I said, you know, generally when something like that happens, is that, you know, I like to self-examine myself. 2 weeks, I want to say about a week or 2 weeks later, the same situation happened with me and my truck. And my truck is pretty much my breadwinner. I had my truck parked at the rest area on 95 northbound in Maryland. And, you know, I took home time. And when I came back from home time, the entire grill of my truck was ripped off. So pretty much it was like a hit and run. So luckily, you know, I had insurance for that, but the insurance was, you know, about $1,000, you know, so that's, you know, a good penny. So luckily I had that, you know, for backup. And just recently, about 30 days ago, prior to that, you know, I had to take my truck to the shop. And, you know, like I said, once again, the truck is the breadwinner. I had to fork out at least over $4,000 to get in truck repairs just to keep the truck operable and maintaining, so that way, you know, we could keep it going. If I didn't have the money, and especially with me being an owner operator, if I didn't have the money, you know, we definitely would have hit hard times. So that's my testimony right there for the emergency preparation.
Great commentary. You know, again, insurance. Again, money set aside to deal with that situation. This truck was the man's livelihood. It was the breadwinner of the family. So if that truck is out of commission, that means babies ain't eating.
That's right.
That means, you know, things are not being taken care of. And that's why it's so important to be prepared for a situation. So again, we have a survey. We have a survey that we've sent out via email, that we posted on social media, and we want to post it again now to give people an opportunity to perform that survey, because I want to see how prepared you are. I want to see what our audience is doing. You know, what level we have taken, what measures we have taken to put ourselves in position to be prepared for an emergency, or are we just one emergency away from total demise? Are we one emergency away from, losing it all?
Right.
So, if you will, Elder, let's go to Sirach 2:1. And let's talk a little bit about this situation that Sirach has presented. Let's get some wisdom from the book of Sirach, please.
All right. This is the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, in the Apocrypha, chapter 2, verse 1. My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright, and constantly endure, and make not haste in time of trouble.
Stop there. God is letting us know that if you're coming to serve the Lord, you better prepare yourself, because with serving the Lord is going to come many temptations. And in those temptations, it's going to cause you to want to make haste in a time of trouble. Well, guess what that means, Yakin? Trouble is coming. Situations are coming. Emergency situations are coming. But you got to be prepared for them. You got to have that mindset of endurance, and that's something that you have to prepare as well.
Absolutely.
Like as an athlete, right? If you're going to run a race, if you're going to be a boxer, if you're going to play a sport, you want to be able to perform in the fourth quarter, you have to have endurance. But you don't just get into the race or the game or the match and say, I'm going the full 12 rounds today, and never have done it before.
Right.
I'm not going to perform in the clutch moments of the fourth quarter of the game, and you've never even played 30-some minutes of basketball before. I've never run 26 miles, and now I say I'm going to do a marathon. Never done it. You have to prepare yourself. You have to prepare yourself, and that means you got to actually put yourself in situations to test yourself sometimes.
Right.
And when you're in smaller situations that aren't as bad, do you overcome them and build off of that?
Right.
Please read on.
Verse 3. Cleave unto him, and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state.
Stop there. It says that you might be changed to a lower state. That means that every situation that comes up, you may not, just skate through it unscathed. Sometimes when something comes up, you may be drastically affected by it. But even though you've been changed to a lower state, you've already prepared yourself mentally. You've already prepared yourself spiritually, emotionally. You got all of these things in check so that you can take it cheerfully and that you can stay patient, knowing that you're going to be increased at the last end, as it said in verse 3. Go ahead, please.
Verse 5. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity.
See, acceptable men are prepared men. Acceptable men have put themselves in a position to where when the furnace of adversity heats up, they're able to go through it without a problem, without too big of a problem. Let me say it like that. It may be tough, it may be rough, but you're still able to endure through it.
Right.
Go ahead.
Believe in him, and he will help thee. Order thy way aright, and trust in him.
See, God he works in mysterious ways. We've heard that before, right, Yakin?
Yep.
See, I know your average person thinks that anything good happens is God and anything bad happens is the devil. But a truly spiritual person understands that, wait a minute, God is actually putting you in this position so that you can lean on him and get the help that you need. So that you don't think too highly of yourself. So that you don't get so puffed up. You may have to go through an emergency situation so that God can exalt himself.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Ye that fear the Lord, wait for his mercy, and go not aside, lest ye fall.
Don't try to work your way out of the emergency situation in a sinful manner. Yakin, I'm starving, I'm hungry, I'm going to steal. I got to put food on the table for my kids. My babies need shoes and this. I'm going to sell drugs and kill the other of my people.
Man.
I'm trying to pay for college. Sister say I'm going to go become a stripper. These are the things that you don't do in a time of an emergency because you feel like, oh, well, tuition due and they're going to kick me out of class. What I'm going to do? Well,
Right.
if you were prepared mentally, emotionally, and, you know, you were doing the things that you were supposed to do to get the knowledge that you needed so that you would understand how much money you needed to put to go into college, by which date, you know, things like that, then maybe we'll get through this situation a little better than the person who lives life by the seat of their pants. The person who has no thought of what is going on in the future. Now I know you're going to pull the scripture, take no thought of tomorrow. Yeah, but what do we do here? We live precept upon precept, and we balance the scriptures. We don't get one scripture and make that our doctrine.
Right.
We take the combination of the scriptures and say, now that we put all this together, we have a greater understanding. Read on.
Verse 8. Ye that fear the Lord, believe him, and your reward shall not fail.
See, this is a special mindset that only people who fear the Lord have. For those of you who may not fear the Lord, you're going to make haste in a time of trouble. You know, when the emergency comes, you're going to do all the wrong things to solve that problem. But for you to actually fear the Lord, you're going to fit what the scriptures say here. Believe on him, okay? And your reward shall not fail. You know what? Our impatience, though, if it didn't come right when we wanted it, then it failed in their mind.
Microwave society.
Microwave society. Read on, please.
Verse 9. Ye that fear the Lord, hope for good, and for everlasting joy and mercy. Look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him?
Now, this verse is a key verse because it causes us to always re-examine the Bible. And as you look at Hebrews and you got the Faith Hall of Fame there, right? You know, you see all of our forefathers who are so distant in our past, though, that we can't really relate to them. You know, sometimes we see them as such great people that we like, how can I compare? But what I want to do today is, in addition to you reading the Bible and looking at the generations of old, I want to bring people who are right now in the midst of it, who are doing it right now, who may be in the future Hall of Fame, you know. I want to talk to them. I want to see what emergencies they've gone through. Yes, breaking your phone, that's an emergency. Yes, having to repair your vehicle, that's an emergency. Or not having the cash for closing a house, those are emergencies. But remember what we're focusing on today. We're focusing on job loss. We're focusing on sickness. We're focusing on death. So I want to get to a few people who've experienced these extremes, these type of emergencies, and see, you know, how it affected them, how they dealt with it, and if they were prepared at the time or not. If they were or not, then, okay, what about now? Have you learned from that situation? Have you grown from that situation? Or have you taken that to another level? So I want to take a moment to talk to some people here in the church. Elder Yakin, you're going to be the first one up. We're going to talk to you. We're going to see how you may have gone through some type of emergency situation and if you were prepared.
Okay.
So I want to ask you a couple of questions. And for you, I want to focus on job loss.
Okay.
I want to focus on job loss. This is the first of our three major emergencies. And as we go through it, audience, I want you to think about how job loss, sickness, and death are related. Not just individually, but also how they work together and how they affect each other. So for you, Elder, have you ever experienced a serious, unexpected, or dangerous situation that required immediate action as related to job loss?
Absolutely, yeah. A couple years ago, I actually lost my job, and it was definitely unexpected. For sure, it was unexpected, but it was a tough situation. Absolutely, I actually was working at a apartment complex, you know, as a leasing agent. And, you know, everything was going fine, but all of a sudden they wanted to change their direction in terms of the people that they had in the office, and they just completely wiped out everybody that was working there, including like the porters and, you know, the people that were fixing up the apartments. Maintenance and all that. So They completely wiped everybody out, you know, and the thing is that with that particular job, there was a contract, you know, that since I was living there, if I stopped working there, then I also didn't have a place to stay.
So, because of losing the job, you are also going to lose money.
Hmm.
But before we talk about the money, you were about to lose your living space.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Immediately.
Immediate.
Yeah, they only gave you 7 days to move out.
And so, when we talk about preparation, we talk about unexpectedness, right? You didn't get any notice, advance notice, like in 2 weeks, in a month, we're going to go in a different direction. You need to start looking.
No.
They said, today, you're fired.
Yep.
And you need to get out of my apartment by the end of the week. That's what they said to you?
Absolutely. We've all experienced it in some way, you know. Maybe you haven't, but, you know, you go into the office, close the door behind you. You know.
One of them.
One of those.
You was wondering who this person that don't normally come to work is doing here in this office, right?
Exactly.
HR.
Yeah, HR. But yeah, that's how it happened, you know. So it was very, very quick, very unexpected.
So it's safe to say you were not prepared for this emergency?
Not at all. No, I wasn't even thinking about it at the time.
They had no thought in your mind?
Not at all.
Well, what did you learn from that experience that you want to make sure the audience can take from your experience and learn for themselves so that they don't have to go through the same thing?
You got to prepare. I mean, you got to prepare. Even though I felt that job was secure, because we are in this captivity and anything can happen, you can't be comfortable, you know? And I think that I was a little too comfortable in that situation. Absolutely. Where I felt like, oh, you know, I got a good job, you know, I'm living at the spot where I'm working at, so I don't have to, you know, go back and forth, you know, commuting and that sort of thing. I literally could just walk down to the office every day, you know, so I got very comfortable. So what I would say is don't get comfortable no matter how, you know, great you think your job is, because this is captivity. Let's not forget that, you know, and it could just be wiped out from under you with the quickness, you know. But with that being said, you got to prepare for those situations. So, you know, you got to stack up, you know, save some money, save food, because all of that affected me, you know. All praise to the Most High. I had brothers that came and helped me in that time of need, in my time of need, but that affected, you know, what I ate. That affected everything, because I didn't have enough money to be able to buy everything that I would have liked to, that would have been a little bit more healthier. So that affected me tremendously.
I wanna dig into that. I'm glad that you said those things. That's something that nobody's really thinking about, more than likely. They're thinking about, oh, I lost my job. Or they're thinking about, oh, I got to find a new spot. But are they thinking about, because I lost my job and I lost my spot, that now I'm living off of food that is going to not be nourishing to my body? You know, I got to ask you, though, since you weren't prepared then, are you prepared now?
Yeah, I'm a lot more prepared now. You know, everything, my bank accounts are set up to where I have every check that comes in, I'm putting something in the savings, so that way if something does happen, then I can go right into that and be able to still eat the same way that I wanted to eat before, still have some emergency funds to be able to maybe, you know, get another place or whatever I need to do in that particular situation. So absolutely.
Okay, and how did you go about getting prepared? What were the changes that you had to make in your life that put you in position to be prepared now that you weren't doing back then?
Just being more mindful. First of all, just being more mindful of not being, like I said, as comfortable, you know. Because it happens, you know, you're just in this state for a long period of time and you just get comfortable, you know. So just always being aware and being mindful of the situation, that allowed me to say, okay, now I need to get my bank account set up. Now I need to make sure that I have my funds right. Now I need to make sure that my finances are all the way in order. You know, so yeah, just being more mindful, I believe, is the most change that I've made, which has allowed me to be a lot more prepared, for sure.
All praises. You know, for those of you in the audience, hit the like button if you like what you learned from that lesson right there. You know, give me some commentary on how what the elder just brought up to you could really benefit and help you. Because there's someone right now that's probably too comfortable. There's someone who thinks that their job is laid out right now, and they haven't experienced what you've experienced, or I've experienced. I've experienced the same thing. You come in and, hey, well, we need to have a meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
A meeting. Okay. Close the door behind you. Oh, one of them type of meetings.
Exactly.
If you've experienced that, let us know. And if you haven't experienced it, please let us know the value that you received out of that. And so the next thing that I want to do, well, it looks like we got another comment from the virtual audience.
Yes, we have a comment from Brother Yamani. Brother Yamani in Austin has a comment.
All right. Bring it out, Brother Yamani. Let us know what you're thinking in regards to emergency preparation.
Well, when I was listening to the beginning of the session, my mind was wandering towards, prepper stuff that I've been thinking about for a very long time. But I have a personal story in regards to what happened to me in 2018. I come from a technology sales background, and, I used to make six figures. And in 2016, I got laid off and did some consulting and decided to do Uber and Lyft. And I was doing that full time. And at the time, my basic salary was $50,000-$60,000 a year. And when I did Uber for $25,000 a year, I was comfortable, and I didn't have proper insurance for my vehicle. And after about 5,000 Uber rides and 3,000 Lyft rides, I totaled my car, and I just had the basic insurance, and it didn't cover the cost of my car. That one decision to not get a regular paying job where I made at least $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and just living the life of Riley, driving around Uber and the hours that I wanted to make and just getting by, cost me dearly. And all the things that are bad that could happen to you happened. 3 months later, because my vehicle was my income, I lost my apartment and became homeless and got in a situation where I had to go on social services and get food stamps. And it's affected me to the point where when I got on those food stamps, I couldn't get the food that I used to get, the meal preps that I used to get. So from that time to now, I've become diabetic and a whole host of things. And guess what? The one thing I didn't think about out of all those tragedies was proper insurance for the vehicle. So a long story short, that little decision and being lax, all the things you can talk about that can go bad for you, all of those things happen off of one decision. Choice of job, lack of insurance. That's all I got.
Brother Yamani, we definitely appreciate what you brought out there. That was some good stuff, because we need to hear these type of stories. Because, again, there's always another brother and another sister who's on their way to going through the same thing.
Right.
And if we can get these things out there in advance, maybe we can stop somebody. The brother made mention that the choices that he made, the job that he decided to have, the being cheap on the insurance and saying, I don't need full coverage.
Right.
I'll just get the minimum requirement.
That's how we
And
do
you know
it.
how we do.
Hey, I was living the life of Riley. I had tacos and brisket and eating everything I wanted to eat and getting up when I wanted to, and it got comfortable. But you can't get comfortable.
Got comfortable.
That's the word of the day.
You can't get comfortable. You got to be on point all the time.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that extra commentary in, because what I was going to say is we be spending our money on other non-essentials, brother eating good, and you know how we do, especially the wicked of our people, right? Shrimp, lobster.
Right. Yeah.
You think you eating good, but meanwhile, you got limited liability insurance. Brothers got Jordans on, but they car raggedy.
Right.
If they have a car. These are the type of thoughts and mindsets that our people have, but it puts us in a position for the emergency to eat us up. It puts us in a position to where we can't come out on top.
Right.
But if we would have just really put our priorities in the right space, how would that have changed things? If we were to have counselors among people who actually have experienced things and can give us the proper guidance, how would that change things? If we were to think before we do, because that's a lot of people, we don't do that.
Right.
If we were just to think a little bit about, you know what, I've seen that this brother or this sister, my mother, my father, whoever, have gone through these things, how would that affect us positively to be prepared for an emergency?
If we would seek out the counsel from the counselors,
right?
Because a lot of us don't want to do that, especially when it's a more personal situation. We want to I'm gonna just hold this to the side, and not tell nobody about it. But then that leads us down that path that Yamani was talking about, where it's just thing after thing after thing happens. But if you would have just took that counsel first and sought it out, maybe that could have prevented it.
Absolutely. And when it comes to the thing after thing after thing that happens, I want y'all to see the correlation. Losing his job then led to not being physically healthy. Now he is telling you about diabetes.
Right.
And so, Lord's will, we get in front of it so it don't lead to anything further.
Absolutely.
We have to reverse these effects.
Definitely.
To our live studio audience.
All praises, all praises. I'm loving this interaction. I'm loving the topic. I just wanted to bring out a point about when you're going through certain emergencies, the type of people you have around you can affect your situation. They can either lead you into the emergency or they can help you get out of the emergency. So I'm going to give a brief example. I'm not going to go into too in depth. Years prior, around 2009, 2010, when I was working at the prison, I worked on third shift, which was an older crowd at that shift, people that got families that are a bit older. So I wanted to go and be with the young, which I began to get a different group of friends. So I'm going to say the friends that I got weren't into the right things, and it led to trouble. So we ended up losing. And come to find out, once I lost my job and I started getting behind on bills and stuff like that, the friends were hanging out, partying, hanging out at the apartment and stuff. But once stuff started to hit the fan, they began to leave and left me with everything. And I had to find my way, and I didn't have the necessary people around. So it affected me for years and years and years, and I had to come up from the bottom, and that's pretty much what led me to the truth anyway. So all praise to the Most High. But just not having the proper people around me, it took me through a lot of hurt and a lot of pain and a lot of struggle that I shouldn't have had to go through. So having the right people around you can change your life tremendously.
Absolutely, absolutely. When we talk about the motto of True Spirit of Christ, what is it, Yakin? What is it?
Building a better community, one family at a time.
Building a better community. That means you're going to have people around you, but it starts with getting each of our families in order. If Yakin gets his household in order and he's prepared for an emergency, that might rub off on me. Maybe I'm like, well, let me get like Yakin. He got things in order. Let me get things in order. Now we both have things in order. And when this brother have an issue, I'm there to help him. And when I have an issue, he there to help me. Two is better than one.
That's right.
And you brought it out yourself. You made mention that when you went through your job loss situation, fortunately, you had brothers around you that were there to help you. Imagine going through that job loss situation and you did not have those type of people around you.
Man.
You see that Deacon Shema brought out that he was around the wrong people. You bring out that you was around the right people.
Right.
The company you keep is going to help you through an emergency so you can prepare yourself by getting the right people in your circle.
That's right.
That's part of your preparation.
That's right. Absolutely.
So I appreciate each of you who've given commentary so far. Brother Yamani, thank you for what you brought to the table. But again, I want to bring somebody out that maybe we can relate to. Somebody that's a major part of this church that, if we're going to look up to people, we need to know that they have gone through situations and come out of them on the other side in such a great fashion that you wouldn't even know they'd gone through the situation before. So I'd like to bring Mother Amita to the screen. And let's talk to her about emergency situations, okay? So we're going to talk to her about sickness and job loss, okay? And how these two things are related and how we were affected or she was affected by that. And let me know when we're ready to go with Amita, and then we'll go forward. Again, we're going to talk about a couple of key questions here Same questions that I brought to Elder Yakin, and if you have any questions you want to throw in there, feel free to.
Okay.
So are we ready to go live with Amita? Okay. How you doing, Mother Amita?
Shalom, Most High in Christ bless. I'm doing well today. All praises to the Most High.
All praises to the Most High. So I wanted to bring you to the table and ask you, have you ever experienced a serious and unexpected and potentially dangerous situation that required immediate action as it relates to sickness and or job loss?
I would say yes and yes. My experience is twofold. The first emergency that I encountered was being diagnosed with that C word, that we're all afraid of. I got diagnosed with cancer. In that situation, I was prepared. I say I was prepared because I had insurance on my job. And I was fortunate enough, blessed enough to have some pretty decent insurance. We pay use it. So at the end of the day, before this diagnosis, I really didn't know what my insurance was capable of doing. To make a long story short, I had great insurance. It covered all of the needs. It covered everything that I needed. Surgery, it took care of my chemo, took care of all of that. So I would say yes, I was prepared in that sense because I had insurance on the job. I know how prepared I was spiritually, but I was prepared spiritually when the diagnosis got put on the table. At first, I was a little shook up, but I remembered where I was and whose I was. That's Rock 2 that you bought in. It played a huge, huge part in how I handled this particular emergency. But with that being said, that emergency that I was somewhat prepared for brought on another emergency. Even though I had good insurance on my job, I had what was some of decent jobs are, but it was doing what it needed to do at the diagnosis. I ended up being out of work in those 2 years, they held my job for me as long as they could. My next emergency was they couldn't hold my job any longer. So I ended up losing my job. Now, what's your next question?
Well, no, continue with that story, because when you lost the job, what happened then? Iceberg. That was just the tip of the iceberg, wasn't it? What did losing your job then cost?
Exactly. I was waiting for you to ask me if I was prepared for losing my job. Mm-hmm. Because no, I was not. I was I was comfortable. I had gotten comfortable. I hadn't thought far enough in advance to, even after being diagnosed with the sickness, having the insurance covering it all, I never thought about, well, what if you can't go back to work? What do you do financially? In the meantime, even though I had wonderful insurance, I wasn't preparing myself for any financial emergencies. I could say that I didn't have the means to prepare for a financial emergency, but we all know that's really not the truth. The truth is we have to discipline ourselves with the resources that we have. I mean, where I need to place those $2. So with that being said, in losing my job, I was not financially prepared.
Let me statement there. I love that you brought it out, and I want to highlight it. Discipline. You have to have the discipline to be prepared. Mm-hmm. A lot of us will make the excuse that we don't have enough money, But that's why we're going into classes that go over finances. Shout out to Elder Uzziah. That's why we go into classes like that, so that we can understand that no matter how much we have, we better be the best stewards of the little that we do have. Mm-hmm. And see, so now I want to ask you, now that you think about that in hindsight, you know, what could you have done differently to be, given that you made the statement, be disciplined? What could you have done differently?
Say is a lot of us live for today and we don't think about I used to tell my children when they were younger that all the time. Save some money just in case you do get to see tomorrow. Tomorrow's not promised. No, it's not. But just in case it is. So for me, what I would do differently is discipline myself to keep in mind that the Most High just may give me tomorrow. And I need to be somewhat prepared for tomorrow. I am starting to change the way I look at the income that I do make. I am, you know, fortunately back at work now, but it took a while before I was able to find another job. And I was, you know, pretty low. But I never lost faith. I do want to put that out there. I never, ever lost faith, and I never questioned why I was going through what I was going through. I just kept my head up high and took it one step at a time. But now I am focusing on, even though I'm older and I may not have as long of a life ahead of me as someone younger, I'm still thinking forward when it comes to preparing for my future. I mean, I believe even if it's just into next week, I still have a future.
All praises, all praises. So I was thinking, you had something?
No, well, I do, but go ahead.
So I was an emergency situation because it required some immediate action, right?
That is correct. Yes.
What could you have done? Not as much of an emergency, not as immediate of an action. Because if I remember, you know, being that I was a witness to some of that, if we had did something different, it might have not been so drastic. What can you speak to that?
Well, I'm not so sure if we could have done anything different.
Preventative, I should say.
Well, and I know where you're going with this because, yes, you were there. Well, here is taking care of yourself, because taking care of yourself. So the story behind me getting diagnosed with the cancer was I had turned 50. And I'm not sure if you know, when you turn 50, you're supposed to get on a regular basis because I had been diagnosed with high blood pressure earlier. So I was seeing my doctor on a regular basis. He was taking care of me. And every time I went to see him, he would always say, you know, you're 50. Well, yeah, I do know I'm 50. I don't need you to keep reminding me of that. Well, you're supposed to get a colonoscopy. We need to get you in there and get that colonoscopy. Okay, nah, I don't think so. I don't want to do that. And I kept putting 5 years, because I think I was 55 in 2017 when I actually got diagnosed. So with that being said, I would say it's important to stay on top of your health, because as we've heard, you know, in this class today, all of these things can be the outfall or bring on other things, let's say that. You know, keeping up with your health can help you avoid other issues, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So yes, I put off getting my colonoscopy, but in retrospect and looking back, had I gotten the colonoscopy at 50, would it have been there opposed to when I got it at 55. Because when I got the diagnosis at 55, we got it in time enough. It was serious, but we caught it in time enough to where they could go in and remove it. And here I am today. I mean, it didn't have to turn out this good. It did not. But we did catch it in time. But yes, preventative.
And so the reason I asked that, you know, just to give the people a little bit of thought behind it, though, you may not have caught it at 50. Stages to cancer. Mm-hmm. And if you catch it early enough, it's just a surgery, clip and go. But if that cancer spreads and it's in a different stage, it may have started in one place, but now it has had enough time to spread to the rest of the body, and then that caused the chemo. Mm-hmm. You know, for some people, they'll never even have to go through the chemo. So that's why I brought that up.
Yes, and I did. I had to go through chemo, and that was very hard. But it also made my faith a lot stronger.
All praises. Thank you, Mama Amita, for giving that story. True testimony of strength, you know, and courage in an unexpected emergency, as we've been talking about. What I wanted to kind of touch on was the insurance piece. Yeah. Because she was saying that, you know, she had insurance, you know, at her job, and it was great insurance. Because I'm in insurance, is that although you have work, the reason being is because a lot of times if you lose your job, then that insurance goes with it. Quick. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you don't have any insurance to fall back on. So I want to put that point out there first. If you have insurance at your job, get a separate insurance that's not related to your job, so you also have that just in case something happens.
And that's a very good point, because when I lost my job, I lost my insurance. So I was out there for about a year with no insurance, with these health issues that I had, that I was trying to stay on top of. Right. So that's a very good point.
Exactly. And the point is that now you have conditions that, you know, we have underwriting and things like health questions in order to get insurance. Mm-hmm. So now that you have a condition, it's harder for you to get insurance. So you want to think about that way prior to anything even happening. So I wanted to bring that up. Also, in terms of preparation for insurance, they have riders that you can get on insurance that will help you in situations like this. So they have things called accidental, or they have a waiver of premium riders. So your premium can get waived if you come up with a terminal illness or something like that. So these are also things that you can use to prepare. So if you do get a cancer, you don't have to pay that insurance anymore, or you can get a portion of your pay for, you know, health, or pay for like some sort of treatment and that sort of thing. So you definitely want to look at those type of things in terms of insurance as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Mother Amita, let me ask you this. Now that you've gone through this experience, what preparation steps have you taken to be more prepared for anything that's going to potentially happen in the future? So that what you experienced this time in the negative, the lack of preparation, I should say, doesn't happen again.
Well, first and foremost, I'm continuing to, you know, stay up on my health.
Probably healthier than you've ever been now, huh?
Well, I wouldn't say all I've been through, and I have no one to thank for that but the Most High. I feel pretty good. But yes, staying on top of my health. I mean, you need to go. You need to listen to what the doctor says. If he recommends something that's not, you know, just totally outrageous and ridiculous, listen to him. it would have been there, and it could have been caught where I didn't have to go through the extremes that I went through to get where I am now. The other thing is financially. Like I said, I'm still living like I have a future. You know, don't get in your mindset that, you know, oh, I'm older now. I don't know that. So I'm still actively acting like I have a future to live for. So I'm starting to handle money a lot differently now. I'm starting to make sure that I have a little bit set aside for whatever may come up.
Thank you, thank you. We appreciate your commentary today. You know, Elder, read Ecclesiastes 7 and 12 for me real quick. You know, it's a common theme that we've seen in each of these scenarios, and I think that it's going to continue to be a common theme. You know, Ecclesiastes definitely gives us a lot of great wisdom. So I want to go here to highlight what God has said, to confirm what man has said.
All right. So this is Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 12. For wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it.
You know, I made mention earlier that sometimes you got to know what to do to be prepared. You got to have the knowledge to be prepared. You got to have the wisdom to be prepared. So that's part of your defense. That's part of your preparation.
Yep.
But money is also a part of that preparation. And in the month of excellence, if we're going to become excellent, we got to be excellent in our knowledge.
Absolutely.
We got to be excellent in knowing what to do, then doing what we know. And if we can do that, that's the thing that gives us life. That's the thing that keeps us going. Like, as we see what happened in your situation, as we see what happened in Amita's situation, had you not had the knowledge to put yourself in position to have some type of preparation, you might not have been able to move forward.
Right. And the thing is also that goes back once again to the counseling as well. Because maybe you don't have the knowledge, but maybe you have, or you should have, the people around you that can have that knowledge for you to be able to bounce ideas or ask questions to be able to get that knowledge that you need to be able to make the right decision. So once again, it goes back to having the right people in your circle, like Deacon Shammah was talking about a little bit earlier.
Absolutely. Now go to the end of Sirach chapter 2 verse, just go back to verse 10.
All right. Sirach 2 verse 10 you said?
Yeah.
All right. The book of Sirach chapter 2 verse 10. Look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded?
So we look at that in the Bible, but now we're getting to look at it here in front of us, face to face with the people that you know, that the people that you're experiencing life with, the people that you see keeping God's commandments. And you got to ask yourself, are they confounded? They have trust in the Lord, and are they confounded? Is Elder Yakin confounded? Is Mother Amita confounded? It says, read on.
Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him?
See, we're seeing that believers are really coming out on top despite their emergency. You know, people are coming out and living better than they were before the emergency.
Yep.
You know, read on.
Verse 11. For the Lord is full of compassion and mercy, long-suffering, and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins, and saveth in time of affliction.
And saveth in the time of affliction. So now, I want to go to another person. I want to bring another person to the stage as we examine the three things here. We examine job loss, we examine sickness, and we examine death. So we've examined job loss, we've examined sickness, but now we have to go into death. We have to figure out how that type of emergency could have affected people. So I want to bring a brother who I think has a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of wisdom to the table. Let's talk to Elder Uzziah and see what he has to say about this scenario. Elder Uzziah, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, but you know the scriptures say lie not one to another. So when you say brothers got wisdom.
I said I think. It hasn't been validated yet.
Okay, all praises.
But same question for you. Have you ever experienced a serious, unexpected, or dangerous situation that required immediate action? And in this time, we're going to relate that in terms of death.
Okay, so yes, unexpected emergencies. I've definitely had a few of those, but most specifically, in 2019, my father passed away. For those of you that remember the year 2019, there were a lot of changes for me that year. I lost my status. I lost everything. And, one of the upsides of what was going on in my life at the time was that my father started being receptive to the truth. I've been knowing about this truth since I was 16. And it wasn't until 2018, late 2018, that he first, he started to learn. And it was unfortunate, honestly, that he started to learn at that time, because there was just a lot of changes happening. Anyway, to make a long story short, it was Monday morning. I remember this. I was trying to get back on my feet in my business because my business had gone through a bankruptcy, and I got a phone. A very unusual person. It was one of my aunts on my father's side of the family. Now, my father's side of the family, very quiet, very reserved folks. Shout out to Louisiana. These are the type of folks you don't really hear from unless you go out there and visit. You know what I mean? Rural people. And from my auntie Jackie. And I was very surprised to get this phone call, but I was excited that she was calling me. So I said, "Hey, Auntie Jackie, how you doing?" She said, "I'm not doing too good." I said, "No, what's going on?" You got to check on your father, Ma. This is what she's calling me from the world. You got to check on your father, Ma. Something is going on with him. Somebody at his job called me and said that he passed out and he had to be sent to the hospital. So, I said, okay, I'll give him a call. She gave me the line to the hospital number. Call up the hospital. It's the UCLA Medical Center. And I couldn't get in touch with the doctor at the time. They had a social rep. And, they kind of explained to me a little bit about what happened, not into too much detail. My father passed out and collapsed, opening the door in the hallway at work. And he had to be rushed to the hospital. And basically, from that point, the social worker told me that the doctor would be the matter too seriously when I first heard it, because, I'm thinking, oh man, Pops, he just, my father was homeless at that time. And, men will be men. And I just figured, if the brother made it through all of this, surely this will be all right. And so I got off that call with the social worker that my mind just started wondering, why is it that the doctor has to call me to tell me about my father's situation? Why is it that the social worker can't tell me about the situation herself? You know what I mean? If it ain't really nothing, he just passed out, he'll be okay. Just tell me what it is. I didn't get a call back from the doctor until about 45 minutes after that call that I had with the social worker. Around the 20-minute mark, I started praying. You know, I started getting real worried. You know, I asked him if it'd be at all possible life instead of his. My father was just learning the truth, and I wanted him to have time to repent and endure. And I knew I wasn't ready to be in that judgment seat, but I would have rather taken my odds over his. You know, the father had given me some time. So basically, 45 minutes after the call with the social worker, the doctor finally calls me, and he asks me if I'm standing up. I need to sit down. I'm just still in shock. I just, you know, what do I need to sit down for? I tell him, okay, I'm sitting down. He says, you know, he died of a heart attack. You know, we tried everything that we could, tried to revive him, couldn't bring him back. That had happened, and it was real crazy because, you know, I had been trying to tell my father for years, man, hey, it's time to retire. You know, you're homeless. You know, I own real estate in Austin, man. I'll open up a unit for you. You don't have to pay nothing. Just come. Just come. But he finally told me in 2018, he was like, all right, son, I'm going to take you up on that offer. I said, okay, cool. You know, all praises. He said, you know, I've been working my whole life. You know, he worked as a veteran in a VA building. And he said, when I turn 65, that's when I'll retire, because I'm staying long enough to be able to get, you know, all of my pension and all of my benefits from my 401k plan and all of that. And then as soon as I turn 65, that's when I'll retire. My father, 2 weeks before he passed away, I was mentally preparing myself for us to be able to kind of pick up on life. You know what I mean? We went a certain period of time where but he was starting to repent and give ear to it. And I thought that by him coming out, you know, for him to hear what he needed to hear before it was all over. But, you know, a man's goings is of the Lord. And that's what happened. So, you know, with all of that being said, that's my story. It definitely shocked me, to say the least. You know, a lot of my family members, especially on my father's side, they're blessed with long age. But in my father's case is because, you know, he was just living too hard of a life in LA. You know, folks in New Orleans, especially where they're from, out of Magnolia, you know, they easygoing country folks, you know, not doing too much, you know, living like. As a city guy in LA, especially homeless in one of the most expensive cities in the world, it just put too much of a weight on him. And so that was the situation that happened, and it was a great learning experience.
Hey, all praises for you to be able to give that. In emergency situations, like these, like job loss, like sickness, like death. These can be serious, very serious situations that no one wants to play with, no one wants to joke around with, that can really have a strong impact on someone for the worse. And, you know, that's why it's imperative in this month of Exodus for us to really focus on things like this so that we can be there to comfort each other, you know, because guess what you said? Imagine going through any one of these situations by yourself, without a support system. We've all learned something from these situations, and as tough as they are, they've made us stronger. They put us in position to be better than we ever were before. You thought you were strong in the past, but look at who we spoke to today. You know, Elder Uzziah, you made mention, you said you've learned a lot. Would you mind, you know, just sharing some of the things that you've learned that you definitely view as takeaways that every one of us needs to put in our pocket, and thank you for that piece of knowledge that you can give us?
Well, without me being on here all night, you know, man, the way that the Most High works, man, the scripture says in time of your prosperity, there's a forgetfulness of your affliction. And in a time of affliction, there's a forgetfulness of your prosperity. And man, I lived that out from I want to say maybe from about 2016 to 2020. There was a time period in my life, and you saw it as Anaya. It felt like anything that I touched to me, whether it was business, you know, getting out of my job in corporate America, being my own boss, setting my own schedule, whether it was, you know, advancing spiritually, you know, being a great household. There was just so many things that were going right that it kind of allowed me to get in a space where I could never foresee taking a L so hard. And it wasn't even so much that my father died that was the L. It was when my father died. I said, damn, Dad, why you gotta die today? You know, and the reason why in my mind I was there is because to 2019, I had the money to be able to take care of all of his affairs. His funeral, sending his body to Louisiana. It wouldn't have been that hard for me. But it wasn't until I had already taken losses financially. And, you know, I think one of the biggest lessons that the Lord wanted me to see is that you should always prepare for a dark day, no matter how bright it is outside. You know, no matter how much you feel like you're up, you can always come down. And it wasn't that I thought that I was invincible, but the Lord had given me such a lane and such a run for so many years. It starts to feel normal for you. And you start to put yourself in a space like, this is the type of stuff that happens to other people. But then it was like one thing after another, you know, taking major losses concerning church, taking major losses in terms of the friends that I thought that I had in my life, genuine friends, people that I'd have cut for, people I'd have took a bullet for, people that had stayed in my house and, you know, all kinds of things. It all happened at one time. And in dealing with the impact, all of that at one time, it was very overwhelming. You know, one thing and dealing with the loss of a kin is when you are unprepared for that type of loss, you don't really have time to grieve. You know, because of the fact that my father was in Los Angeles, I had to get out there on the next thing smoking, and I didn't have time to sit in bed and cry about it. You know, I had to get this man out of the hospital. I had to be able to gather his car and get things out of the storage unit. I had to for him as a son, because none of it was lined out for me. He didn't plan on passing away at that time, and I didn't plan on him passing either. So it was very unexpected, but I think that, you know, obviously the recurring theme is be prepared.
Absolutely.
And you can't stress that enough. But I think, you know, one of the biggest painful realities that I went through personally is you got to be very self-sufficient, beyond being self-sufficient, man, because one of the hardest things that I had to go through with the downsides of family whenever they're grieving through a loss in their own way. Black people, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. You know, a lot of times when people pass away, and you become disappointed because you would have thought that as much as the deceased had looked out for you while they were living, you'd be the first one up to try to help with this and help. For the most part, it was very disappointing to me, you know, the lack of effort family gave. And I was very blessed to have enough support and from camaraderie from True Spirit of Christ Church to be able to help put my father to rest in the funeral. I didn't have the money for it at the time. And it was very hard. And one of the biggest things that I said to myself at the time was, what do I need to do in my life so I never find myself in this situation again? How much money do I need to make so I can never find myself in this situation again? Having to ask family and certain people and twist their arm to do something that I thought that they would have wanted to do for this man. You know, that was very painful for me. And I would have loved nothing more than to just snap a finger and say, nobody has to worry about anything. It's all covered. It was a very tragic situation. But that's what was needed for me to be able to learn my lessons. And it was a very cold lesson because I truly believe in my heart allowed me to go through for the type of leader that I needed to be in order to serve God's people in this church. I needed every blow to be thrown at me in a very short amount of time so that I could recover from it in such a way to make me stronger. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know, I firmly believe that the Father, he saw some glimmer of good in me. But like the devil does when he speaks to the Father, he tests God's servants and say, do you really think that this guy is serious about serving you? And so in going through that furnace of adversity, I'm glad that I stood tall. I'm glad that I endured. I'm glad that I didn't bug out. I'm glad that, you know, I leaned on the scriptures as well as the brothers and sisters that the Most High put in my life during that time. And I'm very thankful for the people that the Most High put in my life at that time. So I would say one of the last lessons that I've had is that are in your life. You know, you always want to acknowledge them for who they are while they're living. And don't get everybody that the people for you, they go unappreciated. You know what I mean? It's only but a few people that you're really going to have in your life. And you really want to be able to let them know that you're in their corner as much as they're in yours, while everybody is still here to hear it. You know, you want to give them their roses while they're here. And that's the reason why one thing I always tell Azaniah, I always say, you have equity with me, man. You know, he asked me to do this. And I hope you statement before I talked because I knew it was going to bring something out of me. But I said, okay, brother, you know, you want me to talk about this during the class? If it was up to me, I wouldn't, because it hurt me. And if you've never dealt with a loss on that level before, to you younger brothers and sisters, that type of hurt that you feel, you just learn to live with it. You learn to cope with the loss. It's something that dies within you when that happens. That feeling never goes away. You just learn to live with it and move on. But like I said, you know, when it comes to brothers like, you know, Azaniah, Yakin, Shammai, Abiel, there's so many brothers. There's so many brothers. You know, a lot of you brothers have equity with me, and I want to make sure that brothers and sisters know that while everybody is here, so that you know how to love one another like the scriptures say while we have time to enjoy it, because life is short.
Elder Uzziah, man, I want to thank you for getting up here and giving your testimony. I pray that everybody really got something out of that. He made some key statements.
Definitely.
And if you didn't take from that, see, this is why I tell you, rewatch the class. This is why I tell you, don't get focused on watching as many classes as you can, but make sure you rewatch, because what we just talked about today with you, the different brothers that came in and chimed in from Zoom, this is real. This is real life stuff. Real emergencies that brothers and sisters have gone through. And if we don't know how to take and relate from that and use that to our advantage, if we can't figure that out, we're doomed as a people. Absolutely. Because God already told us that we're going to learn from our brothers and our sisters that was written aforetime, and we also got to do that from the brothers that we're working and laboring with right now. So, Elder Uzziah, I really appreciate you. I know that was very difficult. I get that. And I definitely understand why you said what you said about the equity. But this is a serious situation we're dealing with. We're dealing with emergency preparation. And the only way to really get prepared for these emergencies is for people who have gone through it to teach us how to do it. That's right. And so now I know things. I know who I can go to for help to get through that myself.
Yeah, I was just going to add in this one last thing. You know, that God had to use someone to be used as an example of what trials can look like, having the courage to press forward in spite of it.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people go through trials, but not everybody endures those trials and retain their integrity. And, you know, it got to a point, and I tell brothers about this a lot of times if I'm counseling them. You know, a lot of times in your spiritual eye, you have to step away from the emotions of the trial and start to examine the spiritual side of why this is happening. And it kind of got to a point with me, you know, after having gone through so many consistent losses in a short amount of time, you know, the spirit needs you to go through this, because there is faith that you can endure it. You know what I mean? The scripture says, and so, you know, the whole time when this whole situation was going on, you know, I was just thinking, man, I was like, I got to endure this because Yakina's watching. I got to endure this because Abiel is watching. I got to endure this because Shammah is watching. I got to endure this because, you know, Azaniah is watching and he has a parent in the truth. I was like, man, I gotta, whatever comes my way, I'm just going to have to eat this, because at the end of the day, I can't tell somebody else how to endure a trial when they go through it if I up and run when it's given to me. So, you know, I give all praises to the Most High for putting me through those tribulations, allowing me to go through those tribulations, because I would not have wanted those things to happen in succession to someone else, to the point where it could have broken their spirit. And I'm thankful for the Father for whatever spirit that he gave me to allow me to go through those trials and still endure.
All praises, all praises. Brothers, sisters, y'all better take something from that. You know, you really better think about the people that you put yourself around. Do they have the type of spirit of endurance around them? You know, we got plenty of drinking buddies. We got plenty of buddies that we can play basketball with. You know, the sisters, y'all got somebody you can gossip with. You know, you can do some things you ain't supposed to be doing with. You know, gossip is what I was referring to there.
Right.
But do we got people that's really there to build our spirit up the right way? Not just telling you the smooth things, but telling you, hey, you got to repent of this. You need some correction in this area. I'm here to help you with the process. I'll be your accountability partner. Do we have those type of people?
Right.
And do we have that brother or that sister that can lift you up and tell you about their experience and how they got through it, so they know that you can get through it as well? What kind of people do you have surrounding you? So, audience, you know, I told you that I put out the survey. The survey's been going around. We had people responding live while we were in class. And I really want to get ready to pull up the results for that survey. So before I pull up those results, though, I want to tell you what I've been doing in the community, how I've been networking a little bit, trying to put myself in the mindset of being prepared for an emergency. Because I've experienced things. I've had some emergencies, but I haven't had every emergency on the earth that I could be a good example to talk to you about. Right. So I need some of your experiences. I need some of Uzziah's experience, Amita's experience, etc. When we put all these experiences together, then we have a team of people with the right experiences to help each other through emergency preparation. And, you know, as I say, I've been networking. I've been out in the community. And I met a sister recently who has an organization called 10,000 Fearless First Responders. And what they do is they are an organization of people all across the United States that are geared toward being ready and prepared to help in any emergency situation for black and brown folks. She put herself in position to create an organization that was dedicated to emergency preparation. And so what I'm saying about it is, they don't just show up when the disaster happens, which is, they do that. When the ice storm came, they was out in the community in Austin making sure people had water, making sure people had blankets, you know, getting people out of the places that they were not fit to live in. But, you know, they were there doing work, you know, when there were any type of disasters like that, but they stepped back and said, you know, we got to be prepared. We're an emergency preparation group.
Yep.
So what does that mean? We're going to teach people how to respond in these situations. They're going to already be ready for that.
Man.
They got land in which they're then taking that land to use that as a place of refuge, a place to where they can have their own resources, would that be food, water, shelter, etc. And these are the type of things that certain people in the community are doing, and they've done this based off listening to their leaders and saying, say no more.
Right.
I'm going to take it and run with it. So I bring up this organization and this sister because I was inspired when I heard about what she was doing, the level that she was doing it at.
Right.
You know, as far as I know, ordinary people, right? Not someone that's been, you know, given the silver spoon in life. Not someone that their father's long line of this has been doing it. No, a person who said, right now is the time to make a change in my community. And I bring that up as for inspiration for you. You hearing these things that we're talking about today. We're talking about being prepared for job loss. So who is making businesses so that we can employ our people? We're talking about sickness. So who is putting people in position to be doctors, to be nutritionists, to be pharmacists, to be naturopath type of doctors where you can bring us the herbs of the earth and help heal us? Who is doing something that can help prevent us from getting into that death situation, whether it be from sickness or from accidents or from being in the wrong place because you was in the midst of wickedness? That's the type of things that we need to do. So I bring that up because I want y'all to prepare yourselves for being as fearless as these first responders may be. You know, whether that means that we partner with an organization like this or whatever, these are the type of things that we need to do if we're going to rebuild a nation.
That's right.
We say that we're going to build a better community. These are the type of things that we need to build a better community. You say that you want to be excellent. Well, you're not going to be excellent with a lack of preparation. You're not going to be excellent if an emergency comes up and it causes you to fall apart. You're only going to be excellent when the moments of toughness come up and you blow right through it like it was nothing there. That's what we got to work on, Israel. So I want to bring up the survey results, please. With the survey results, we talked about a couple of different things here. I asked key questions just to see where our people are at. You know, are we prepared for job loss? Are we prepared for sickness? Are we prepared for death?
Right.
So, if you will, you know, we had, and we still have people responding now, as you see. We had a couple of questions, and the first question was, do you have a skill set that you can use to get paid to do without working for a large company? I asked that question because of the topic of job loss.
Right.
You know, let me make an example, and I'm not pointing out anyone, do not get offended, but let's say your job is the barista at the coffee shop. Okay, you can work for Starbucks and get paid X amount of dollars an hour, but can you take that skill and do it for yourself? Can you be, you know, a coffee barista of your own and still get paid if Starbucks laid you off?
Right.
If you're working at McDonald's, you know, I'm giving these low wage jobs, and then I'll look at high wage jobs, medium wage jobs. It doesn't matter. If you're a programmer, you know, and you're in the IT industry, can you do that for yourself? If you're a carpenter, can you do that for yourself? See, there are some skills that you could do for yourself, but now the question is, do you have the knowledge to be able to put it out there and do for yourself?
Yep.
So when we looked at what the people said, 59% said yes. 25% said maybe, which means they're not even sure what their skill translates to. And 14% said no. So what do we have to do? We got to take that blue area and make it bigger.
Definitely.
We want way more than 60% of our people to have a skill set that they can do without working for a large company. When I say large company, working for the other nations. Working for a Fortune 500 company, because that's normally, I'm not sure. Maybe there are some black-owned, Hispanic-owned Fortune 500 companies, but I'm not aware off the top of my head.
Me either.
So the question is, do you have the skills to pay the bills? And 60% nearly say yes, but we want to be confident. We want to be sure. And so hopefully that 60% is real, but even if it is, we need to turn the rest, the other 40%, into a yes.
Definitely.
The next question is, do you have an emergency cash fund? Yakin, when you lost your job, you needed money, quick.
Absolutely.
So that you could get a new apartment, so that you could feed yourself.
Yep.
You know, the brother lost his phone. You know, it broke. He had some cash aside. The brother had an issue with his truck. He had some cash to the side. You know, everybody had to have cash to the side, and if they didn't, hopefully they had somebody around them that could spot them, because money answers all things. Money is a defense.
Yep.
The thing that's going to defend you in that emergency is the money. So 55% of the people, the majority of the people, said no. 55% of you do not have emergency cash funds. So if an emergency pops off, you may be out of luck. If an emergency pops off, that may be the beginning of the demise in your situation. That's not a good place for us to be, Israel.
Nope.
And while we here as a community to try to support each other, we're only as strong as our weakest link. And for every person that we do have to support, that takes away from somebody else who we need to support. Don't get me wrong. We're here to support. But if the majority of the people don't have a cash fund, then that means the majority of the people can't help and support.
That's true.
So we have to work on that, Israel.
And I just looking at those numbers there, it just reminds me once again about these past couple of years. You had COVID-19 that happened. You had the winter storm that we were talking about a little bit earlier.
Back to back, over and over.
Back to back.
Couldn't stop losing.
Exactly. So the reason I bring those things up is because the Lord will put those things out there to kind of wake us up, to say, hey, look, if you're not prepared, these type of things can happen, and they are happening right now, so let's make sure that we prepare. So, seeing those numbers, it's a little concerning because, you want to make sure that you are prepared because look what's happening out there right now,
Absolutely. And now I want y'all to really look at what we're talking about here. These are real numbers for you who are online right now.
Right.
Normally we only bring in statistics that some research group then brought and is disconnected from our community. But this is our community.
Absolutely.
Our community right now, live and in effect. And so when you see the maybe answer, that lets you know that they don't even know.
Not sure.
They're not sure. They don't have the knowledge to understand what an emergency fund is or how much is needed to be considered a fulfilled emergency fund. And different people have different answers. Some people say start with $1,000, then go to having 3 to 6 months of your income so that they can cover 3 to 6 months of bills. Different people have different thought process behind it, but at the end of the day, you better have some type of cash fund.
Definitely.
You can't live your life waiting for the next dollar to do the next thing. You got to have some type of cushion. Now, the next one was, do you have multiple streams of income? And it was very similar in response to the emergency cash fund. It was 59% as well, and 7% maybe, and 33%. Okay, it was very close. It wasn't 59% as well. 55 in comparison to 59. But what does that tell me, Elder Yakim? Well, I can see why you don't have a cash fund, because you don't have any extra streams of income.
Yep.
And see, for some of us, you may make enough money to set money aside in one stream. And that's cool. But what happens? You may walk in and that job tells you, hey, we need to have a meeting, close the door behind you.
Exactly.
It's over.
Right. You don't need to go to your desk. We already got everything packed up for you.
Yeah.
Just take this box.
So that's the moment that your emergency cash fund starts to get used up and there's nothing replacing it anymore. Even if if you were just making $50 a week on the side, that's better than zero. So we examining this, Israel. We're going to have to do this survey again and see that blue area, the yes, be the majority soon.
Definitely.
Multiple streams of income. Are you living check to check? Well, we finally got blue in the majority, but the answer was a negative answer still. 55% of our people are living check to check.
Right.
We're not prepared for an emergency for job loss, as we can see. When it comes to these numbers, this shows that we got some work to do. In the month of excellence, we're trying to achieve excellence, but we're not there yet.
Right.
So as these numbers begin to turn, we begin to move in that direction toward excellence.
That's right.
So let's move to the next category, sickness. Do you get regular medical checkups? All praises to the Most High. The majority of the people said yes.
All praises.
66%. 29% said no, we got to work on that. And for the maybes, I'm not sure why you're saying maybe. Maybe sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But again, we need that whole thing to be blue. Definitely. You need regular checkups because guess what? Preventative maintenance is much better than fixing a problem that is already there.
Most definitely. Most definitely. There's so many people that I talk to in terms of their insurance, once again, where they just took their time, didn't go to the doctor, didn't get treated for certain things. They saw the signs that were there, but they never went to the doctor for whatever reasons, multiple reasons. Sometimes people are scared to go to the doctor. Sometimes you may not have the insurance or the funds to do so. But because they didn't do it, that led to, you know, them getting their legs cut off for you know, different conditions and certain things. So, yeah, we got to be mindful of that. Get those preventative checkups for sure.
Absolutely. The next question I asked was, do you have health insurance? This is an alarming number for me, given what we've seen at the top. 88% say yes. So all praises to the Most High. The majority of you have health insurance. You have dental, vision, medical prescription, some type of mixture of that. All praises. Make sure you use it.
Definitely.
You know, for some of us, we only go to the dentist when we have a toothache. You done cracked the molar already, and now you go to the dentist. But your dental insurance covers 2 checkups a year to where you can get a cleaning and an exam.
A lot of it covers more than 50% of it, sometimes 100% for the cleanings and the preventative stuff.
Right.
Because the thing is that they want to make sure that they pay for the preventative stuff more than the major stuff, you know.
That's wisdom. The insurance company, they take all your money and they say, go do the preventative stuff so we don't have to give any of it back.
That's right.
So if they know how to save money, then that's telling you that's how you should save money. You will save money as well if you go do the preventative stuff so that you don't have to spend it on the aftercare.
Absolutely.
Now, the same thing with vision. Like, you know, you walk around, people can't see good, but why you don't have glasses, brother, sister?
Right.
Oh, well, I just haven't gotten around to it. Priorities be all jacked up. Like, take one day out of 365 to go get your vision exam and get you a pair of glasses. They don't have to be the Gucci ones. They don't have to be the flyest of glasses. You can get the free pair. It's okay, as long as you can see.
Right.
And it's brothers and sisters that I'm talking about right now. I don't know who I'm talking about, by the way. I'm not talking about you in particular. But if a hit dog holler, right?
Yep.
They got the restriction on their driver's license. That's been driving for 10 years without glasses.
Man.
Somebody just hollered, see? Same thing with the medical and prescription, though.
Yeah.
Now let's move to the next category. Remember, we're doing this just to see what we are. We're trying to gauge ourselves so we can see what we need to do to achieve excellence. Do you have life insurance? 70% of the people said yes.
All praise.
Now, I don't know. Maybe we need to dig deeper into that question to see what level. Because you may have $1,000 worth of life insurance, and that's not quite going to cut it. But, you know, the fact that you have some insurance, that's better than no insurance.
Right.
So all praises to the Most High, but yet and still, you know me, I like to leave room for improvement. So all of that red area, that yellow area, orange, whatever color that is, that needs to be blue as well. We need 100% life insurance. Because what you don't realize is the nations, they actually use life insurance as part of their wealth scheme.
Absolutely.
They get money from insuring their family member. Everybody's going to die one day, right? So you might as well go ahead and take a life insurance policy, and you can speak to it way better than me, on your family members, so that when that unfortunate event happens, instead of it being a burden, there's still a blessing that comes out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That goes into your whole life insurance, you know. There's different types, you know, different types that build that cash value, you know, as you go on. But yeah, they'll definitely do that. They'll put out a policy when the person is young, you know what I mean? And then when they become the oldest person of the family, that cash value has built up so much that once that payout comes, they get that blessing, as you said, with the cash. So that's something that we don't do at all, but it's something that we can do. But we just gotta, like you said, have that knowledge of it, you know, and then be able to apply it.
And if you're going to have life insurance, you need to really continuously monitor and pay attention to what you have so that you can make sure you remember who your beneficiaries are. Make sure your beneficiaries know that they're on that policy and they know how to activate it when necessary.
Definitely.
Like, do you even know where the documents are since you got the, you know, since you got the policy? It's in a cabinet somewhere,
Man,
right?
Yes. Yeah, and that'd be a major problem too. There's been so many people that I talk to. Oh yeah, I got a policy. It's this and that. You're like, okay, can you get it for me? They can't find it, and then when they do find it, it's something completely different from what they said it was. You know, so that's something that we gotta get better at.
And I'm sure every one of us need to work on it. I'm not going to say that I don't. I have life insurance, yes, but I definitely need to do the reoccurring check of, okay, what was it? Which account is this? How much is it? Who is it to? Do I need more now that I have more family members? I got more kids, or I have a higher income, or I got more assets to cover.
Absolutely.
Do I need more now?
Right.
And last, well, not the last, but one or two more questions. Do you have a will? This is unfortunate, Yaquin. The majority of our people say no.
Ooh, that is.
81% do not have wills. So that means in the event that you may pass away, nobody knows what is to happen with your assets. You may not have many assets to give away. Maybe that's why you think you don't need a will, but everybody needs a will, right?
Absolutely. Everybody needs a will. As you said, that dictates what happens when you die, you know? And so where the funds are going to go to, what it's going to pay for, so on and so forth. So if you don't have that, then, you know, your family is going to fight over that, you know? And this is a thing that we don't think about, you know, when it comes to death, right? You know, your family is grieving, right? And so a lot of times they're not even in the right mindset to make the right decisions in that specific situation. So if you have your will already laid out, okay, these are the directions in terms of what I need you to do once I pass away, they don't have to think about it now. They could just make those moves and then they can grieve properly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, I want y'all to think about this. These numbers are for you to see how we as a collective are doing. But if you're the one that said no when everybody else said yes, or the opposite, depending on what the question was, now you see that the majority of the people around you either have their life in order and you need to get with them so you can figure out how to get yours in order, or you see that they don't have it in order, and this is the type of conversation, these are the type of conversations that you need to begin having so that you can collectively work in the right direction. Yep. Instead of talking about basketball, let's not talk about LeBron James tonight. Let's talk about life insurance.
Right.
Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about, okay, brother, do you have the health insurance that you need? Do you, and not from a sales perspective only, but a concern. I'm concerned, brother.
Absolutely.
You know? You got something in the audience? So I hope y'all looking at these statistics and seeing what it's going to take for us to become excellent.
Hey, Elder, I like the fact that you said that's conversations that we got to start having, because in black households, it's kind of like a taboo subject. You know, if you bring it up, they be like, what you trying to say? I'm about to die? Well, we all know it's a possibility we can all die, but we need to prepare for it and stop thinking of death as such a negative thing. It's something that we know that it's going to happen, you know, us being in these bodies, but let's just properly prepare for it. And I wanted to bring up another point about having the will, and you want to make sure that, you know, you outline your burial as well, you know, because it was mentioned that, yeah, people will be grieving and will fight over things, but people have their own agendas as well. You know, you've got the grandmother that grew up in the Christian church and you're her little grandson, and she feels like, you know, you need to be back in her church. You don't want to be buried with a picture of Caesar Borgia over you. So you need to make sure that you have all those, you know, what you expect on everything to do. So just want to make that point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, one more comment from the audience. Thanks.
Yeah, you touched on something heavy right there, Deacon Shammah, because yeah, it's on. You touched on something heavy right there, Deacon Shammah, because there was a part of the story that I didn't mention. You know, there was so many. Y'all know how it goes whenever the losses happen. It's nothing but drama, right? So, for the most part, you know, when my father died, all praise to the Most High, and I had my wife to support me that was traveling to do a lot of the legwork to take care of my father's affairs, right? I was his only son, and his only other child died about 2 years before that. And the thing about it was, he, in 1993, took out a life insurance policy that had me, my sister, and his ex-wife's name on it. He never updated the life insurance policy from when my father passed away, and it was time to dish out the funds from that life insurance. His ex-wife, who he would have never wanted to get the money, walked away with the lion's share. Because when my sister died, not only did the ex-wife get her the cut that the ex-wife was entitled to, but my sister's as well. Right. And both my father and my sister would be rolling in their grave to have known that. But the one thing, and I was pissed, and the one thing that that certain family members had to keep reminding me of, as much as you would want to feel something so, your father should have had these affairs taken in order before he passed. So I just want to put that out there for brothers. You know, I know that we've been speaking, you know, in a family-oriented sense, but y'all know, you know, some of you brothers, you've been in certain situations. You've gone through a bit of divorce. You know, your ex-wife, she might have did you dirty. Your only son, he's going to be the one to put your body in the grave. But when situations happen, the inheritance is going to go to somebody else. And they're not going to care that you didn't have your affairs in order. So brothers, make sure you get this taken care of, because I'm a witness. I'm an example. My father's assets, it went outside of me, and I know, brothers, that you get your affairs in order.
I want to piggyback one thing.
Lammy
back. Yes, thank you. Another point I want to make is, I know, you know, not everybody on here is fully, you know, in the process of repenting. We've got new, you know, brothers and sisters that are learning their Israel, and you know, one thing is why we push marriage. All right, you want to make sure you got the paperwork, because in certain situations, even though y'all been, you know, shacking up for however long, if you ain't got documentation that that's your spouse, everything that that person got will either go to the state. Your paperwork is in order. All right, just want to put that out there so there's no confusion. Make sure the paperwork's in order so you're not left high and dry.
That almost makes me want to go into another topic, but I'm gonna hold that back. I'm gonna hold it back. Y'all know what I'm thinking, though. All right, let's move forward. We see what we got. The last question on there was, do you have enough money to cover your own burial expenses so that you do not leave your family the burden of figuring out how to bury you? 55% of them say yes. At least it's the majority. Okay. But it's too close. It's too close.
Yeah.
The maybe and the no is too close, that a lot of us, we're going to be trying to figure out how we're going to get someone buried.
Right. GoFundMe's.
GoFundMe. Like, imagine if there was no such thing as GoFundMe. There might be some people that ain't in the ground yet.
Oh, man. Really?
And I'm not trying to make fun in this situation. Please don't take that as a joke. I'm being serious when I say this, that if you don't figure out how to do it, then what?
Right.
Like, I don't know the answer, and I don't want to know the answer to what is going to happen to my family member if I can't handle the funeral expenses. You get what I'm saying? So this survey was meant to give us a little bit of understanding of what our community is dealing with, understanding what we need to make change in. Hopefully, there's a brother or a sister that is well versed in these things that can help us turn these negatives into positives. You know, the things that we had an alarming response in the wrong direction, we want to change that. And so if there's someone who sells life insurance, you know, Elder Yakin, educate us. Figure out how to get us in position to offer life insurance through the church and things like that. Same thing with medical, dental, vision, etc. You know, what are the things that we need to do to promote healthy lifestyle and habits? We had a lesson on health is wealth month. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of us, if we do the right things and eat properly, exercise, get the right sleep, etc., take care of our mental health and our emotional health, right? We won't go through certain sicknesses that cause problems that may get us to lose our job, because sometimes you get sick and lose your job because you can't keep up with the work.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, sometimes you get sick and lose your life. Mm-hmm. But what if we handle that and we get these things in order? We can avoid some of these emergencies that we talked about. Yep. So let's go to 2 Thessalonians 3 and 10. You know, as we talked about job loss, we understand that the scriptures say this. You know, it's very important. Read this.
The book of 2 Thessalonians, chapter 3, verse 10. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat.
We've always understood that there's an importance to working. We've always understood that this is how you eat. The Most High God even made the commentary, you know, in Genesis, in the beginning, that you're going to have to work this garden. You're going to have to till this land. By the sweat of the brow shall you get your bread, right? Mm-hmm. So these are the things that we have to understand, the importance of working. And a lot of us have lost jobs, but some people don't even want to get jobs. Some people are lazy, bumming it, you know, if you will. Yeah. And we want to encourage a working mindset here. I'm not saying be a wage earner. I'm not saying work for someone else. I'm not putting you in those boxes and conditions. I'm saying make sure you become a producer, into which you can either produce something that that stimulates the economy. We talked about group economics, as well as that you can, you know, be a producer in your household and bring forth the things necessary. I want to go to the audience. We look like we got someone in the virtual audience today.
Yes, Brother Benaiah from ATL.
Brother Benaiah, what you have for us today?
Brother Benaiah, you're on mute. Unmute your line.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Hey, so shalom, elders. How you guys doing? Yeah, I just had a quick questions. Going back to the will, you guys brought out some really, really heavy points. And one of the questions that I did have is, you know, for, you know, brothers and sisters that does not have a will, and, you know, after this class, they want to actually begin the process of writing out a will. One of the questions that came about is, well, what is the correct, what is the true burial process in terms of burying someone according to our traditions, right? The Israelite way. Because I know we have many family members that are still in the world, and they will bury us according to the traditions of the world, right? But if we want a true burial in terms of the Israelite way, how is that? What is that process? And if there's some literature that we can provide our brothers and sisters to actually begin that process.
Yeah. Well, actually, we do have a little bit of a process that we've put together. I believe the outreach team has that information. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a question that we can go through outreach to get that information, outreach@truespiritofchrist.com. And what we try to do is we try to make sure that we bury according to the customs, and we teach the people exactly what we want to do for the funeral, how we want to dress, the way that we want to proceed with bringing forth scripture and dealing with the family, what day we want to bury on, how quick we want to get to that process. There's a lot to it, and the proper channel to go through to get that full detail is the outreach team, correct?
Yes, correct. Absolutely.
Okay. You got something you want to say?
Yeah, real quick. I was just going to read John chapter 19 and verse 38. It says, "And after this, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews, besought Pilate that he might take away the body of Jesus. And Pilate gave him leave. He came therefore and took the body of Jesus. And there came also Nicodemus, which at the first came to Jesus by night, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100-pound weight. Then they took the body of Jesus and wound it in linen clothes with the spices, as the manner of the Jews is to bury." Okay, so typically whenever we perform an Israelite funeral, we want to make sure that the brother or the sister is buried in fine linen. Okay, as many of you know, traditionally, when someone passes, they're buried in a suit, right? You want to make sure that the brother or sister receives a proper Israelite garment, if it be at all possible, that it has fringes on it. We lost a brother last year, Brother Judah, and we made sure, all praises to the Most High, that when he passed, he had a garment to give him a proper burial. Also, whenever someone passes, you want to bury them as quickly as you can, because the Israelite custom was always for them to go into the heart of the earth soon, because the scripture says that we return back to the dust. A lot of times in Esau's world, it's a long drawn out thing from the time that they pass away to the time of the funeral, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month at times. They didn't deal like that in the ancient world. And so you want to make sure that you do the burial quickly, but you make sure that it is decent and in order. You want to make sure that, when speaking to the funeral home, you communicate all of the circumstances surrounding an Israelite burial, because they will try to impose their own funeral policies for you, just, as a standard. And you need to make it known, hey, we're not putting no cross over this body. We're not giving them no white image of Jesus. For my father's funeral, I did the whole thing. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted to make sure that a Christian pastor didn't defile him, by doing something that would have gone according to scripture. So like the elder said, we'll have more details in full for that. But just know, brothers and sisters, that if you do happen to lose someone who is in the truth, there is a set protocol. I've outlined just a few of those things briefly, and you'll definitely want to make sure that you put us in the know if something happens, because we definitely want to be there to show our support for a fellow believer.
All praises. Thank you for that commentary, Elder Uzziah. Definitely needed excellent verse to bring out, showing in our customs. And as said, there's deeper to go into that by going through outreach.
Absolutely.
Psalms 37:25, please. Remember, we just talked about the job loss. We just talked about how we've always understood that having a job is how we ate. Working is how we ate. That's how we provided for our family. That's how we fed our children.
Yep.
And your nourishment is half the battle when it comes to your health. Mm-hmm. So Psalms 37:25.
The book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 25. I have been young and now am old, yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread.
And despite the fact that we may go through situations, despite the fact that we may go through a problem where we're not working, the Israelites, the true believers, those who are being blessed by the Most High God. I know everybody think they're being blessed by God, but that's another topic for another day as well.
Yes, it is.
But we've never seen the righteous forsaken. We've always made it through the tough times.
Mm-hmm.
and never had to really beg for bread. See, that's the thing. Like when brothers and sisters that we talk to today, each one of them, when they went through that situation, either they had the resources they needed, or they had a brother or sister around them that could help them with the resources they needed. And that's something that the righteous should always have. And that's why I strongly encourage you to really look at your circle. Really figure out who you're around and put yourself around the right type of people so that you can be prepared for that emergency. Because that's part of the preparation, is getting the right type of people around you.
Definitely. But then that also doesn't mean that you slack off and you just, I got these people around me.
Bring
so
it out.
I'm
So you got to say things.
You got to have the balance, because, you know how Israel would do. But yeah.
I got Yakin. He'll take care of me for my every need.
For everything that I need, I'm good. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to do this.
Matter of fact, I'm going to have some more kids and Yakin to feed them.
Yeah, that's how Israel be. But no, just because you got people around you that are going to help, if you need it, doesn't mean that you don't put forth the effort and the work to make sure your family's good prior to that.
Absolutely. So I bring these two thoughts up, these two verses up in the topic of job loss, because we're still in the middle of a pandemic. We're still in the middle of COVID-19, and it has had a drastic effect on our employment. Job loss and unemployment in the U.S. is the highest that it's ever been, I believe. And it's definitely the highest among African Americans, Black Americans. So everything seemed to peak in April when the pandemic happened. But our people, we've never lost the lead. And this is not a good lead you want to be in, at being the most unemployed people in America. So I went to an article from the an article called Unemployment Rates During COVID-19 Pandemic. Okay, and when I went to this comes from the Congressional Research Service. So this is dedicated research for the United States. When I went to this, I saw a couple of key factors, right? I want to read at the beginning of this article, just the first paragraph, and among other findings is what we're going to read through.
All right. This is the unemployment rates during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm going down to the first paragraph here. It says, the coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant effect on the labor market metrics for every state, economic sector, and major demographic group in the United States.
Now, it's saying it's had an effect on every state, and all of the economic sectors, all of the demographic groups in the United States. But we're going to see something specific, that even though it affected everybody, there's still a proportion of people that it affected most significantly. Thank you. Excuse me. Go ahead.
This report provides information on unemployment rates, labor force participation rates, and non-farm payrolls in the United States during the ongoing pandemic. It presents CRS analysis of overall unemployment rate trends during the pandemic. The report first examines these trends nationally and at a state and industrial levels. Next, it examines how unemployment rates varied across demographic groups. The report then repeats this analysis where appropriate for the labor force participation rate, which sheds light on the size of the workforce willing and available for work. The final portion of the report analyzes the impact the pandemic has had on overall employment and by sector.
Okay. So among other findings, this report shows the following. These couple of bullet points is going to summarize what this entire document is about. We're only going to talk about these bullet points here, but there's 27 pages to get more detail on it. So go ahead. First bullet point.
All right. Among other findings, this report shows the following. In April 2020, the unemployment rate reached 14.8%, the highest rate observed since data collection began in 1948. In April 2021, unemployment remained higher, 6.1%, than it had been in February 2020 at 3.5%.
Now notice that since data has been collected in almost 75 years,
right,
this is the highest it's ever been. This means the most people are unemployed now than ever in the history of this data being collected. And it's remained higher from the time that it jumped in 2020 for a year later. Go ahead.
The labor force participation rate declined to 60.2% in April 2020, a level not seen since the early 1970s. Then began our partial recovery in May 2020. The labor force participation rate was 61.7% in April 2021, 1.7 percentage points below the level in January 2020, before the pandemic and the economic recession.
So even the pandemic wasn't the only factor, though. It was already looking bad because nearly 40% of the people eligible for the workforce are not working. Nearly 40%.
Man.
Go ahead.
Non-farm payrolls shed 22.1 million jobs between January 2020 and April 2020.
In 1 year, 22.1 million jobs disappear.
Not even 1 year. A couple months.
Excuse me. Thank you for the correction.
January to April.
January to April.
Man.
January to April, 22 million. Now, I know that there's a lot of jobs out there, and 22 million may seem like a drop in the bucket, but that's 22 million people. Man. That's a lot of people regardless. Go ahead.
Start from the beginning. Non-farm payrolls shed 22.1 million jobs between January 2020 and April 2020, with employment declining to 86% of its pre-recession level. In April 2021, aggregate employment remained 7.9 million jobs below its pre-recession level.
Go ahead.
The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted economic sectors desperately. The leisure and hospitality sector lost the largest number of jobs since January 2020, and persons last employed in this sector have consistently exhibited some of the highest unemployment rates throughout the pandemic. Additionally, the education and services sector and the government sector has exhibited the second and third largest losses in jobs since January 2020, despite relatively low unemployment rates among persons last employed in these sectors.
Now, this is important to make mention of because, Yakin, let's be stereotypical here in this conversation for a second. When you go to a hotel, who's cleaning your room?
Our people.
Okay. When you go and look at the essential workers list of the people who had to be working in the middle of the pandemic, who was the main group of people?
It's our people.
And they were in these sectors.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
You got something in the audience?
No, I was just, as you were reading the statistics, it hit me. It's like these jobs are no longer in existence, let alone you being able to qualify for them when they were there.
Right.
Like we'll say, okay, maybe a drop in the bucket, but you got to think about the amount of people that are actually vying for these positions. You know, so it's really not just a drop in the bucket if you don't already qualify.
Absolutely.
That's something we got to really think about.
And Shema, I'm not going to go deep on it, but when you say these jobs are no longer in existence, that's a problem there. Because you were fighting for a job because that was the skill set that you had. Now that job no longer exists. So even after the pandemic comes out, what are you going to do? Now you don't even have the skills to get a different job, and the skills that you do have are obsolete.
Right.
Last bullet.
The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted demographic groups desperately. Although all demographic groups were affected, persons identifying as Black or Hispanic and younger workers generally experience relatively high peaks in unemployment and relatively steep declines in labor force participation over the course of the pandemic. Additionally, persons with lower educational attainment have generally experienced relatively higher unemployment rates and lower labor force participation throughout the pandemic.
It's specifically letting us know that Blacks and Hispanics were hit the hardest during the pandemic when it comes to unemployment.
Yep.
So when an emergency popped off, the emergency might have hit a lot of nationalities of people, but it specifically hit the nation of Israel harder than most. It said it even spoke to education, and we know that we generally have the lowest education. However, you didn't even have to come to that conclusion because it already specifically told you that blacks and Hispanics were in the worst. So I want to show you a couple of graphs that they've listed in this document. Again, we're not going to read through the whole document, but I'm just going to point out some specifics here. We have a comment, though, so we'll go to the comment first before we get to these graphs.
All right, we have a comment from our brother Chevis here in Austin.
All right. Brother Chevis,
Hey.
bring forth some information on how COVID-19 might have affected our people, brother.
All praises for the space and the time. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great. Again, thank you all. This has been a fantastic class, right on time, brothers. I'd rather not embellish in my efforts. I think you brought up Sister Christina Muhammad earlier, who, she does do disaster relief work. I want to touch on a point that you just were talking about involving employment, and I think it should be considered. We can talk very keen about these things, but we have to do it with pure justice. Jobs can be created. We cannot say that Jake, or even those who don't know that Jake is not just working. It's the labor force, brothers. Here in Austin, if you studied the last 11 years, 70% of the labor force does not pay a living wage. This often creates or applies into the cycle of recidivism when folks are beat up by $9, $10 an hour jobs, $11 an hour jobs in an ever-changing area of property tax upheavals. You all spoke earlier about creating your own. I do not say this with any ego or any identity, but I thought I should share this. I came back from prison last year. I didn't have anything. In talking with you, Azaniah, I believe that one, I had the opportunity within myself, all praises to the Most High God, to continue thinking, reimagining. And since then, I've only created my own work. I've stayed independent, not independent of the Most High God, but independent of the government. I think brothers and sisters need to, and not do what I did, because I didn't even quite believe in myself coming out of prison, but we do have to challenge each other to self-establish, create our own jobs where we could have a conversation between you and I about what's a decent pay rate, rather than take whatever white supremacy says. Brother, when the lights went out on February 12th, and the ice came on February 13th, that Saturday, I was out delivering. You all tell me that, my intentions are good in that regard, and I do not try to work on the Sabbath. But sometimes, we got moms in need, right? When the ice came, Austin was completely unprepared. This impacted our community of Jake and Issachar and North.
Brother Chevis, you're currently frozen. Not sure if you're getting a good connection with us. We'll give a few moments.
When the grocery store doesn't have access. So it's interesting that you all are having this conversation, because there's so many folks that need be proactive. Like, what happens if an emergency happens? Elder, I'm terribly sorry to just be learning this news about your father, man. Even you, as brilliant as you are, brother, like, you've said it, you've been so transparent. Like, how can you prepare for a father's death without life insurance? They'll come and take everything that that ever meant anything. And brother, that I've seen that over and over again during the pandemic. Just being at a front facing position in people's doors. It sucks, but it does show, outside of this conversation, early in the Psalms 133 call, we were talking about you having to arrive to Christ and admit that you're sick. It just showed the pestilence and the famine that's spoken of in the scriptures, how sick our people are. So, like if we don't create jobs, our people will go another 50 years. If the Most High doesn't send Christ back at that, in the meantime, we'll go another 50 years continuing to be employees and never, and not employees of our own businesses, but employees of Esau, and continuing to get paid so less a living wage that when the disaster comes, the only thing we can respond to perhaps is rent or gas, and not a variety of things. And out of the food access program that I'm so glad to be of service to Mama Amita, because her and I have spoken at length about, the struggles, thereof, the health struggles some years ago. Azaniah, you and I have talked about that as well. She's such a shining example. She's such a shining example of just turning from the sin that is bad food, bad nutrition, and prosperity will follow. How do you get a myriad of folks who are wrapped in white supremacy, dependent on white supremacy, but inherently just sinful, right? How do you get them to imagine better? If not, what Uzziah did to me 10 years ago, and you get humbled in the scriptures. Christina does good work, but then it's also like, where's the transformation in those people? It's still very much transactional because she's struggling as well. Her and Brother Reggie, they're suffering as well. You know what I mean? Have lost people and blah, blah, blah. Food is one thing, but when you knock on the door and you're bringing food that you hope people will eat, but they need rent assistance. They need utility assistance. So many moms that I come in contact with need Wi-Fi assistance so the kids can do homework at home and not have to go to the library or somebody else's house. The need is so vast that it's pure pestilence, it's pure famine. And since you asked, brother, that is what I've seen in the last year since coming from prison. That's what I've seen.
All praises, brother. I really thank you for your commentary. You made a lot of good points there. You made a lot of good comments there. When it comes to an emergency, we have so many needs. And really and truly, one person can't do it alone. Right. The brother mentioned 3 or 4 other people who are a part of emergency disaster relief. I want to really shout the brother out, because this brother has been nonstop with Working Group 512, which True Spirit of Christ is in partnership with him. You saw one of our community service efforts was really to help with that group. Yep. But this brother has been providing food to a people that is in the midst of food deserts, a people that is in the midst of food insecurity, which most people don't even know what that means, right? The brother has been tirelessly working to make sure that he provides for people, because emergencies don't just happen when it's an ice storm. It's not just an emergency when it's a hurricane. It's not just an emergency when one tragic event happen. Sometimes we live an emergency. Our life is an emergency.
Yeah. I mean, we looked at the numbers just a few minutes ago. The majority of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. So that emergency is every month a lot of times.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I like what the brother said also in regards to coming out of prison and creating for himself. I'm actually proud to see the work that this brother has done in being able to create financial stability for himself coming out of prison, because most people's excuse is when they come out of prison, well, ain't nobody hiring a felon.
Right.
No one's going to hire me. I love to see when someone eliminates the excuse and still prospers without. And the brother's works have not gone unnoticed. Some of you may have seen he's been nominated for some awards and things like that recently. But it's not all about the reward. It's about affecting your people.
Right.
And the brother is so humble when it comes to it because he's not looking for the rewards. He's looking for making impact to anyone that needs it.
Mm-hmm.
It don't matter if it's 100 people or one person that I helped somebody that day. And so he brought up the thought about, the Sabbath. And we've had the conversation, is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath? Absolutely it is. You want to find ways to not intentionally work on the Sabbath, but at the same time, it's people to be helped. Mm-hmm. It's people that need, in the pandemic, it's cold and no one got food and someone's baby is crying.
Right.
I'm glad that brother was out being a service to the people. And so we need more people like this. I'm glad the brother spoke up because he's a good example of what we need in the community. And we need examples of all different types of people as well. I brought up the sister Christina, as she has her lot to play, her role to play. He has his role to play. You have your role to play. We all have a role to play. Everybody needs to be doing something to impact the relief of emergencies in our community.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
All praises, brother. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for
Drive
checking
safe
in
out
with
there,
us.
bro.
Absolutely. So I want to go to the images that we have, figures that show the unemployment rates. The first unemployment rate is by full and part-time workers. By racial group, figure 7. It already told us, but this is just you seeing it in vision, right? You're seeing that as the months go by, we were already leading as a people, blacks versus Asians and whites, as the highest rate of people unemployed. And as the pandemic came on, we just followed and continued the trend. If it peaked, we peaked. Mm. And we've never, there are certain points in time where whites and Asians are in the same level, but there's never a point in time where blacks are in the same level. We're always more unemployed than the others.
Right.
Let's go to figure 2. The U.S. unemployment rate. So we understand that the U.S. as a whole, all people began to experience a hurt from the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And in April 20, you see the spike. You see the drastic spike and the peak. So everyone experienced an emergency there, but as we looked at the previous figure, in figure 7 with blacks, you can only imagine that when that spike hit, as you saw it actually happen, that our spike hit. We went from, 6% to 16% during the spike. Thank you for bringing that back up. So you can see where that spike happened. The whole economic system experienced a hurt, but we were always the leading people in that hurt.
Yep.
I want to go to figure 9 now, education. Because I want y'all to think about yourselves and where your education level lies and how a disaster or an emergency can come out depending on how well you've educated yourself. I know we talk about education, we talk about college, if you're going to go to college or if you're going to get a trade or if you're, whatever you're going to do. But the statistics show that the people who were impacted the most had less than a high school diploma. The people that were impacted the least had at least a bachelor's degree or higher. So when we talk about excellence, right, when we talk about previous lessons that we've had, right, and how important education is, you can see that if an emergency pops off, the people who are normally the best prepared for that emergency are going to be the most educated as well. Yep. So this is not to say that the only education is to get a bachelor's degree or higher, but it's to say that if you get it, it does provide a certain value.
Right.
From the audience.
I just wanted to make a point when you brought up the education part. We got to look at how these pandemics happen, how a lot of job losses is happening. The elite, they understand where things are going, what kind of society that we're heading to, and we've got to begin to position ourselves, because what they'll do is they'll begin to redistribute wealth. Yes. They'll begin to change the classes. Okay, you were middle class at this point. Now, when things begin to change, you begin to be lower class if you don't keep up. We've got to be a people that's forward thinking and be able to see where things are going and get ourselves there. That way, if we're already at the bottom the way it was before, and they begin to change things and begin to change the criteria, we'll be even further behind if we don't have that forward-thinking mindset and begin to create things for ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to be able to keep up with the trend. You think that you can stay at your current level and ride it out, but what you don't realize, if you're not moving forward, you're still moving backward because everyone else is moving forward.
Right. I mean, you got to think about things like inflation, things like that are going to affect you. Like, some milk was maybe $2, now it's $3-4, you know? And so if your income is staying the same, then guess what? You're going to have less and less money going to the grocery store, being able to purchase different things, being able to set yourself up. So those things are key. You got to pay attention to them.
And back to what the brother Chevis, I like that you bring up the milk. It makes me think. The brother's been delivering milk to those in need and things like that. It's hard for people to even afford milk. Right? And he's been bringing fresh vegetables from farms. Like most people buying honey buns, but we getting Swiss chard and broccoli and carrots straight out the earth. Like not no that's already been processed.
Right.
Because of the work that brother's been doing. That's been an invaluable resource. But then one other thing that the brother said that it just popped in my mind, the taxes. The taxes. So Shema made a comment, Deacon Shema made a comment saying, if you're not keeping up with the financial growth that other people are going through, then you're still falling behind. One way that you fall behind is the taxes. So what is happening here in Austin? Boomtown is what they call it, right? The real estate market is booming. And right now, people who bought their house for $100K, their house is worth $600K. Now that sounds good if you're selling it. But if you're keeping it, what does that mean? Now they're taxing your house as if it's worth $600K. So you were paying your mortgage or whatever, or maybe you're done paying your mortgage and you thought you were good, but you don't own that house really. You still got to pay taxes, and you may have to pay an astronomical amount on taxes, which then redistributes the wealth, because guess what's going to happen, Shema? The people who got the money going to come buy it, give you a few pennies to say, hey, I'm doing you a favor. And now they have it, and they're able to make money off of real estate. And shout out to LD Uzziah, who put out a recent video. Most millionaires are making their millions off of real estate. So that wealth gap continues to increase because what? Because we're not able to keep up with the changes and be a part of that wealth attainment.
Right.
Now, I'm going to make one more figure just to show another demographic, figure 8, and then I want to go to a video and kind of really talk about what I just said. Figure 8 says this. It's showing you the correlation between Hispanic versus non-Hispanic. And if you can see, on the left you got Hispanic, on the right you got non-Hispanic, and guess who's leading the way in unemployment? The Hispanics. So basically that's saying Hispanic versus non-Hispanic. That's showing you that the majority of those people who were conquered by Spain and brought forth that language, because that wasn't their original language, are now leading the statistics in data of being unemployed as a Hispanic origin. So I just wanted to show you that, because it's not just blacks, it's Hispanics as well.
Right.
It's all of our people that are experiencing these tragedies. So now, let's go to the link. We can just go to the video, actually. But the title of the article is over 42 million Americans have filed for unemployment during the coronavirus pandemic. And I want to play the video real quick, 1-minute video. Please take a listen. So what we saw there is, despite the fact that we show up in the minority of population, we always show up in the majority of the people who are affected negatively by a situation. So it was 42 million people that claimed unemployment benefits, but we also see that only 20 million are receiving the benefits. Well, I bet you can't guess which number, which demographic of people fall into that 20. I bet you can't guess which ones are not getting the benefits that they need. I bet you might know someone that's not getting the benefits that they need. Oh, where's the PPP program? You keep seeing people that have a $1 million business, multi-million-dollar corporation, and they use the PPP money to buy a new mansion, a Bentley. But then I'm sure you know some people that, you got a small business and you had to shut your business down. Black-owned businesses, right?
Yep.
This has been what is going on, and now I want to go to the next article just to show you in how just a few days, the first article that we just pulled a video from, this was June 11th. The second article that we're going to now is from June 18th. Let's see what the title of this article is. $45.7 million. So this one says 45.7 million people have filed for unemployment during the pandemic, greater than the combined population of 23 states. In less than a week, it jumped a couple of million. It jumped, let's see, from 44 to 45, about 1.5 million jump in less than a week.
Man.
Now, if you can focus on that bar graph right there, the bar graph is showing you the spike. It's showing you that same spike that we continue to see how April happened. And it's putting in perspective of dang near 0 to 6 million in initial unemployment claims, during those time frames of that month. So that's going by the weeks within that month. I bring this up to show you the importance of recognizing the emergency. I bring this up to show you the importance to say that coronavirus showed us that we weren't prepared. Coronavirus exposed everybody that was so comfortable living life. You were good because you was able to go to the club and look like you had money. You were able to, go on a little vacation. Your life wasn't in order. You didn't have life insurance, but you was at the Jamaica resort. But then when it hit, you was at home feeling exposed.
Yep.
From the audience.
I just wanted to bring up another point for us to think about. We're talking about the pandemic, how that can cause you to lose jobs as well. But I don't think Israel thinks about, what about a time of war? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of job loss in the time of war. Supplies begin to be limited. Your taxes will begin to go up. Think about this. A lot of things that we get in America, we outsource them from other countries.
Yeah.
If we go to war with these other countries and they begin to say, oh, we're shutting these things down, as we saw during the pandemic, certain things weren't able to come over here because they weren't shipping from certain countries. So if you're in a time of war and things begin to get shut down, resources and supplies are going to begin to be limited. Jobs are going to begin to be limited. Because if you got a company where they're based in another country and they kind of have, different areas over here, they may shut down and say, we're pulling our business from America and we're going back to China. We're going back over here. We're going back over here. So these are things we got to look for. We say, yes, we want, the war to pop off for the coming of Christ, but it may not just be instantaneous. You may have to feel some of the effects of that war popping off or what's leading up to that thing. So we got to begin to prepare for ourselves. These are things to think about.
So, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, great point. That's things that we don't think about, we really rarely think about what's going to happen the next 5 minutes ahead of us, but thinking about a war situation and things like Deacon Shema talked about, that's not even on our radar, but we got to get there.
Absolutely. Now, it's getting late, and I don't want to belabor the point. So I just want you to post the article, EPI.org, because it made mention that the black workers face two of the most lethal pre-existing conditions for coronavirus: racism and economic equality. So I want to encourage you guys to view that article for yourself. We'll post it in the link. But the key area that I wanted to focus on really just talked about that there were three main groups of workers in COVID economy that lost their jobs and face economic insecurity, are those that are classified as essential workers and face health insecurity as a result, those who are able to continue working from the safety of their homes, and unfortunately black workers made up the majority of those groups. So I just wanted to put that up there, but I wanted to give you a perspective to think about. Another thing to put in your notes, another thing to read for yourself, Genesis 41. Genesis 41 is a great example of our forefather being prepared for an emergency situation. And instead of falling, he rises.
Right.
So who knows what Genesis 41 is about? Do you know what Genesis 41 is about?
Joseph.
Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph in Egypt.
Joseph in Egypt, absolutely. So Joseph was in prison. But when the disaster was declared, which was a famine, when the emergency situation declared, he had such a skill set that he was the most sought after guy. They pulled him out of prison and said, come save us from the situation. Not only does he go through that situation in prison and come out and begins to help Pharaoh with a dream, and then from that dream get put in position to work through the famine. The whole chapter in itself tells the story of a lengthy famine, which according to text lasts, 7 years? Sometimes emergencies can last that long. Are you prepared to go through it?
Man.
The famine was so deadly that people literally had nothing to eat. Not only in Egypt, but all the surrounding lands. And in order to survive, Joseph had to be the man with the plan. Joseph had to help them store extra grain from previous good years so that all the neighboring lands of Egypt could buy food. I want you to examine that chapter. You're going to have to read it for yourself. We're not going to read it to you. This is my story time with Yakin. Yeah, we're not going to read it all to you. That's a great chapter to read. But examine how Joseph rose to power during that emergency situation. He established himself as a valuable resource before the emergency presented itself. And then when the emergency then occurred, he was the guy that actually prospered during the emergency. See, we get mad, Yakin, when the billionaires get richer during the pandemic. But they got skills to pay the bills. They have knowledge, wisdom, they have resources that put them in position to take advantage, whether it be a wicked advantage or not. They are able to take advantage of the situation. And if we're going to come up instead of fall down in an emergency, then we got to put ourselves in position to take advantage in an emergency situation as well.
Right.
So that's what it means when you have life insurance. Despite the fact that somebody unfortunately passed away, now you came up in that situation. Now someone's going to look at someone, that was so bad of him to say that. But no, you got to learn how to take a negative and turn it into a positive. If God said in the Bible, all things work together for good, then how can you make every situation become a positive situation, despite how bad it is the question that you got to ask yourself.
Right. Because death is certain.
Death is certain.
We know that, so you got to make sure that you're, I don't want to say taking advantage of it, but, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in the right position when it does happen.
Absolutely. Now, think about this, though. Remember, the subject area is Genesis 41. Read that for yourself. What did Joseph do when it got so bad? At first, he was taking money for grain. Then what did he do when people ran out of money? He took livestock. Then they ran out of that. He took land. So just like the rich are getting richer right now, where they're in the real estate market and they're gaining for the fact that some people may be getting evicted or can't, stay up on their mortgage or whatnot.
Right.
Joseph did the same thing. It wasn't wicked when he did it. He was able to prosper and grow and do better. And even though it benefited other people as well, it benefited Pharaoh and the Egyptians, Joseph was able to make a name for himself and prosper as well. And so what is my point? My point is to make sure that you bring your mind to a place of preparation so that when emergency situations happen, instead of it being to your detriment, it becomes to your benefit. Right. There are a lot of black folk right now, a lot of Hispanic folk right now that do have the mindset to actually see value in a recession, to see value in a pandemic. And it ain't just because they giving out vaccines to kill somebody. You know, what am I saying that for? I'm saying that in the sense of there have been people, I'm not going to mention names, that have made mention that part of the way that we're going to achieve population control is going to be through vaccinations, through abortions, meaning people are not going to live. So I say that to say, when we're going to take advantage of situations, let's make sure that it doesn't look so negative, that we can turn it into a positive. Yep. You acquiring property, then you can then rent that property out to the people that now have bad credit because of the pandemic. You know, things like that. So job loss does not only affect the person losing their job, but it also affects the people who are providing services, you know, to the people who had that job that had to cut back on expenses. Like, for example, let's say I had a housekeeper. Let's say I have a meal prep service. Let's say I had childcare. Here come the pandemic. Well, I'm not sending my kids to childcare, so the babysitter, the daycare center, the school is no longer going to get paid for that. Well, I don't have the disposable income, so let me cut out the housekeeper. I'll have to keep house myself, even if I can't keep it up the way that they did. You know, etc. Things like that. I can't pay the meal prep service. Now that person is out. That was their entrepreneur endeavor, perhaps. So it begins to affect so many different people. So, sickness. Can we go to the article from ABC News? This article is going to give us a little bit about job loss and its relationship to sickness, okay? Let me know when we're ready. It talks about prior health conditions and how it relates to job loss, and it talks about job loss and how it can create new health conditions. So let's bring that article up, please. What's the title of that article, Yakin?
Title of the article is Job Loss Can Make You Sick.
So remember, I wanted to bring the correlation between job loss, sickness, and death and show how they work together. One can cause the other. So job loss can make you sick. Let's skip down, like I said, for essence of time, to the section that says job loss affects healthy people too. Job loss affects healthy people too. Can you see up there on the screen?
Okay.
There we go.
Job loss affects healthy people too. Job loss increased the odds of a person developing a new stress-related health problem by 83%.
What? Read it again. That's a high number. That's higher than the people that got life insurance right now.
Right. Job loss increased the odds of a person developing a new stress-related health problem by 83%, even in people who reported being in good health prior to losing their job, the study showed. Prior health cannot predict if someone loses their job because of establishment closures, Strelly said.
So I wanted to point out that particular part of the article. This is a good article to read in its entirety. But again, this is not story time with Yakin. You can read it for yourself, the completion. But I wanted to show you how job loss has a very high likelihood of causing you to have health-related issues. When you lose your job, there's a certain level of stress that comes with it that can then be the catalyst for a lot of chronic illnesses that you may have. You may have mental illnesses that are exacerbated by your job loss. You know, for those of you who may have high blood pressure, diabetes, and things like that, job loss definitely ain't helping that, because you may have had insurance and now you don't. You may have had enough money to, you know, shop in the center of the store the outer aisles of the store, where the produce, the fresh produce are, as opposed to the center where the honey buns and the chips are, right?
Right.
But now, you dollar menu hero because that's all you think that you can afford. And a lot of people don't see the value in, if there's anything you can afford, make sure you focus on the food, because just how important that is on your overall health.
Yep.
But sickness can really be brought on by the loss of your job. See, you may have been in great health condition until you lost your job.
Right.
So what are you doing to prepare yourself to be ready for the fact that you may lose your job? That's why I made mention of the question, do you have other streams of income? That's why I made mention of the question, okay, do you have a skill that you don't have to be employed by a major corporation to make money off of? Because if you have those type of things in place, when you lose your job, you can avoid the sickness that comes about from healthy people from the stress of losing that job. So a lot of us do have these chronic illnesses, though. A lot of us do suffer from things that we don't even think are illnesses, right? You may have migraine headaches. You thought that, oh, I just got a headache, but you don't realize that you're actually sick and there's something causing that headache. You know, your stomach aches, your bad allergies. You know, all these things can really potentially hinder you from being productive in your work, which can cause you to lose the job, or the losing of the job can be the thing that causes those stress-related things, because migraines come from stress a lot of times.
Yep.
So I really want y'all to think about the things that we've talked about today so that you can continue to perform your job, whether it be through employment or through entrepreneurship or whatever it is, so that you can continue to take care of yourself and be prepared for an emergency. Let's go to 3 John 1 and 2. 3 John 1 and 2, and we're going to end it pretty soon here. Please bear with me.
The book of 3 John, chapter 1, verse 2. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth.
I bring these things up because this is just what it is. We want you to be in good health. We want your soul to prosper. And as we talk about these different things, they're important to consider. And, you know, we have different situations. Like when you think about Tobit, he was prepared for his sickness because his wife was ready to do woman's work. Tobit chapter 2, verse 9 through 11. Put that in your notes. So how many of you women are prepared to help if your husband were to lose his sight? How many brothers have put in such good work that someone is going to then reward you for the work that you've done and help you in your time of need? Okay? So I want y'all to just think about those things, you know, because whether it be health and sickness, whether it be death, where your family members pass away and now you have to figure out what's going to happen. Again, your money, your defense is the thing that's going to really help you. So not only the money, but your alms. Tobit 12 and 9. It says, for alms doth deliver from death and purge away sin. For those that exercise righteousness will be filled with life. So how many of you have really been preparing yourself for whatever situation that may occur by giving alms? By not only giving alms, but having alms deeds. Having works that can then have the Most High God provide some mercy for you. So I want to leave y'all with that. Because we know that sickness and all of that comes from sin. We know that a lot of these curses come out of sin. But we also know that these come out of trials that God is trying to try us with to see if we're serious about this truth. And that's what we wanted to examine today. We wanted to examine emergency preparation as it deals with job loss, death, and sickness. I want to thank all of those who tuned in today that participated within the Zoom. With those who we asked within the audience, Elder Yakin, Mother Mita, Elder Uzziah, thank y'all for giving y'all's testimonies, because these are the things that are needed to really get us in the right mindset. And I just want to leave y'all with the final scripture. 1 Corinthians 12 and 26. 1 Corinthians 12 and 26, because we can't look at this as, well, I'm going through an emergency. Well, that's your emergency, and I'm good. I'm fine. No. We're going through an emergency because we're building a community. The community is feeling the pain of job loss. The community is dealing with the pain of sickness and death. Read this, please.
The book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 26. And whether one member suffer, all the members suffer with it. Or one member be honored, all the members rejoice with it.
So when we're dealing with the body, we're either all going to suffer or we're all going to be honored. And the way that we get to all being honored is coming into a place of excellence where we've all improved and fixed those problems within our community. Everybody has life insurance. Everybody has health insurance. Everybody has enough money to bury their loved ones. Everybody has multiple streams of income. Everybody has an emergency fund. Then we'll all be rejoicing because we're not really going to go through the pains of the emergencies like we once did. So that's today's lesson. Emergency preparation. I pray that you guys are prepared.
All praises.
So any announcements for today? No announcements for today. Okay, all praises to the Most High. So now I think it'd be time for the time of giving.
If I had to praise you for another breath, I scream hallelujah to Yahweh till there's nothing left. Praises to the Father when I was thugging and going left. He was on the right pulling me. I was skipping school selling dope, coke truancy. Still ashamed how that money and the women in fast cars influenced me. Now it's new life and I'm focusing on the new of me. Thankful for the brothers he gave them, they stayed grooming me. Thinking about the others who played and they stayed slewing me. I'm praying for them truthfully, that they'll see the Jew in me. All that backbiting and hatred could never ruin me. Just do you while I'm doing me. So before a Mac get up on the stand and start crying through my eulogy, I'm thankful that the Lord using me, he still proving me. A lot of brothers calling this walk for them to sow a seed. All the places I could be, I'm thankful that he chosen me. Chosen me. Thankful that he chosen me.
So God, I'm so thankful. Our Father, whatever, I will be thy name, God. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses. So forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Why I'm thankful because my bars on schizo, my pockets on Lizzo. Got my son fresher than 23s on the benzo. Every song dropping on fire, even the intro. I'm on an incline, he keep increasing the tempo. And even fake friends know he making it. And even though the nations he created it, my people was his favorite. Thankful that I wasn't the trailer when feds raided it. All them hard cards you dealt me, look what I made of it. When you gave your life on the cross, I know you paid for it. Though my prayers should have been lost, you made a way for it. Babylon falling, that day coming, I pray for it. Then I get a crown, be patient, I gotta wait for it. High hopes for my afterlife, so I praise you, I was shy for a sacrifice. Sacrifice. I praise him for his sacrifice. That's it. Amen.
Shalom, family. Lord's will, you had a happy Sabbath. Thank you so much for joining us for today's class. There was definitely an amazing class done by Elder Azaniah, and we give all praises to the Most High. But as always, we cannot do this without your support, and so now is the time of giving. Brothers, sisters, your donations have gone a long way. It has allowed us to have the opportunity to have better technology and better software, so that way we can do new innovative things. We pray that you've been enjoying this experience, and we want to do more. So please, with no further ado, donate now by going to bit.ly/givealms. Any little bit helps. Once again, that is bit.ly/givealms. Your financial support will go a long way. Now, for those of you that are on the YouTube, feel free to make your alms via super chat, and that will be much appreciated also. So if you are watching us on the YouTube live stream and you want to donate, feel free to donate via the super chat. If not, we still have our link available, bit.ly/give alms. For those that are on the YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up. Please like this video because that'll help us push this gospel to even more people. There were a lot of our people that needed to hear today's class, man, both near and far. And it's a tragedy that more people don't know about this truth, and we have to hold ourselves responsible. So please, brothers and sisters, if you want our brothers and sisters that are in darkness to get this word, please donate, like, share, subscribe, help us edify God's chosen people. As always, to thank you for your labor of love, we send up prayers to close this out. Thank you, Father, so much for allowing us to see another blessed Sabbath. Thank you for the holy gathering. Thank you, Father, for allowing brothers to be able to interact with us and contribute to today's lesson. Thank you for putting the spirit on Elder Adams and I for a great class. And thank you to all of the brothers and sisters throughout the four corners of the earth for their support. In Christ's name, we thank thee. Amen.
Amen. All praises. Thank you guys for donating to the cause. This is to help us really push forward with the mission, to really make that impact that we need to make within the community. Things like brothers was speaking on, Brother Shevis was speaking on. We need that to help the people. So all praises. But without further ado, I think it's time for us to go ahead and break bread.
All right. So this is 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 23. For I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Jesus, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he brake it, and said, Take, eat. This is my body which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. After the same manner he took the cup, when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as oft as ye drink it, in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do show the Lord's death till he come. Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Lord unworthily shall be guilty of the body and the blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. For he that eateth and drinketh unworthily eateth and drinketh damnation to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. For this cause many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. In honor of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
And while we're doing that, we wanted to give a quick shout out to Abiel Ben Israel on YouTube. Thank you so much for sending off that $10 super chat. All praises to the Most High. All praises. All praises. Thank you so much. Brothers, sisters, make sure to keep supporting. If you're on YouTube, make sure you get those super chats in to be able to send your alms, all right? All praises. Your labor of love has not gone unnoticed, and we, the true spirit of Christ, definitely appreciate your support. All praise to the Most High God.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all praises to the Most High. So, month of excellence, y'all. That's what it's all about. Trying to make ourselves better and better. Mm-hmm. And I believe that the next week we got Elder Uzziah back up to do part 2 of his previous lesson. So please be tuned in and ready to go. Make sure you watch the previous lessons. Make sure that you're prepared and you're ready to put those things in your notes. Thank you for putting that on the screen. We'll go a little bit more into managing time, money, and dealing with real estate and things like that, as well as project management. So tune in and be ready and share.
That's right.
All right, Israel. All praises to the Most High God. See y'all again next week. Shalom.
Shalom.
Lord for your Habasha sacrifice. See, we winning the end, but until then, we giving them life.
Don't worry what the rest to do, just manifest the best and you prepare to overcome. When life throws a test at you, in life you can't succeed if your mind is filled with fear. You thinking about the failures that you had all year, but your failures and your trials will only make you stronger. Came up short of the mark, next time push a little farther. Been deceived in the game, next time play a little smarter. Trying to break through a wall, then hit a little harder. We fail to reach our goals cause we don't think that we can make it. You notice all your flaws, but you fail to see your greatness. You miss the opportunity cause you're too afraid to take it. You think about what you're lacking, but forget the things you made with.
We giving them life, we giving them life. I'm yelling out, true spirit of Christ. See the wool in my hair, the red in my eyes, I'm blacker than night. We praising the Lord for your Habasha sacrifice. See we winning the end, but until then we giving them life. We giving them life, I'm yelling out, true spirit of Christ. See the wool in my hair, the red in my eyes, I'm blacker than night. We praising the Lord for your Habasha sacrifice. See we winning the end,